Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 242. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, release the Kraken.
And from somewhere in the dark multiverse, in a world that shouldn't exist, featuring people that shouldn't exist, Connor's also here.
It's quite a good intro, actually. I mean, by your usual standards.
CR21 coming straight from the planet that shouldn't exist.
Gingertopia?
Yeah.
That does sound terrifying. It's a nocturnal planet, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to be, or else you'll roast alive.
Yes, Gingerpolis. I don't know. I'll think of a way to get Ginger into a planet title that'll sound natural.
Good luck.
Yes. We talk about DC Comics on this show. Every week we get together where we talk about the books we read. Coming up on this week's show, we have Future State Dark Detective issue 4, Future State Superman House of L issue 1, Future State Superman vs. Imperious Lex issue 2, Future State Batman Superman issue 2, Future State Aquaman issue 2, and Connor will be talking about Future State Legion of Superheroes issue 2. And
Do you want a curveball on that?
Mm-hmm.
I have at least one positive thing to say.
Oh, hey, it's probably about lettering again, like the last time, right?
Possibly.
Maybe inking.
And then wrapping up the list, I've got a Patreon book, American Vampire issue, I think it was 16. I'll have to double check that when we get there. But that's what's coming up on today's show. Plus there's a little bit of news. Very little bit, not much, but yeah. It is the show. Welcome into these 240s. It's a very sleep deprived episode for me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Is that your excuse for not reading Aquaman?
That was more of my excuse for not reading Forge. I think Forge was higher on the potential reading list than Aquaman was.
That 80-page mess was higher on the list than the 20-page
Then
one.
something that was at least gorgeous to look at.
Was I can't remember. Who's the
There
artist?
is some really nice
Is that Sempere art?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Well, like
Yeah.
the last issue didn't leave that much of an impression that I felt compelled. When I was looking at things, I went, I don't need that.
I'm gonna be 100% honest and a little bit of a tease. I read this early in the week, and I don't remember much of it. I know it looked pretty, but we'll get there when we get there.
I remember having one really major complaint about the ending.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Okay, all right. That's
I'm glad Connor read it though too, so I'm just not just a man unto myself.
I did. I'll be honest. There are at least 2 or 3 books this week where I was like, I don't really care about reading this, and I'm not sure I want to. But I sucked it up and read it anyway. For the good of the show, unlike some people.
Connor, you on average by far read the least amount of books on this show because you're grumpy and don't want to read things. So don't give me shit because of 1 week where I decided to give myself an easier time and not read 2 things I didn't want to.
I drop books which I think are bad. I have no problem in saying that.
Uh-huh. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what his point is. Is it?
He still read Red Hood longer than anybody should have before Patreon.
He did do that.
I had more time back then.
Yes.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
Let's read. I read way more books than I should. And this week, I didn't have time for Forge, probably 'cause I didn't enjoy the last one that much. And but I read through in an entire day, an entire trade of Brubaker and Phillips Fatal.
Yeah, but Fatal's good.
Because I could not stop myself. Like, every break at work, that was it. So, add that into everything else that I read this week, and it's far too much.
But I don't care. Have a light week. I don't know.
You didn't read half the
you
book.
also watch more TV than anybody I know.
Fair.
So I understand you not having the time for more books.
Well, no, I mean, Connor likes to just argue. He did this like twice before we started the show, where he kept correcting things I was saying beforehand, and he wasn't actually correcting me. He was just misunderstanding the point I was making, because he goes looking for things to correct. Case in point, when I said there I had a light week, all I meant was, yes, I didn't read that much this week. And then he said, no, you only read like 4 books. Yes, I just said I had a light week. It's literally what I just said. You ginger sniveling little shit.
It was a light week, and I said that's because you didn't read half the books. I was agreeing with you and making a dig at your lack of reading Aquaman, mainly. I mean, I don't care about Forge. You probably made the right choice.
Was Aquaman really worth reading that much?
You'll find out, won't you?
Hey, these shrugging reactions from Matt are not fulfilling me with the idea that I have made a grievous error in not reading Future State Aquaman.
I really want to talk about this week, so that's going to take up most of my energy because I absolutely loved it. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. You know,
I do follow you on Twitter, but I don't see every tweet you put out, so I don't actually know what you're talking about. But
you saying you don't have your notifications turned on for Matt?
He tweets too much about hockey. I can't do that.
One of my oldest internet friends does not follow me word for word. I am hurt. Right here.
If you stop tweeting about hockey, maybe I'll pay more attention to
I would say at least.
And if a frog had wings on his ass, he wouldn't bump it. Wait, I messed that up. If a frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his ass when he hopped. Things just aren't going to happen.
I would say at least 60% of Matt's tweets are hockey and coffee.
That's yeah. I don't care about coffee either. And I'm like, today's blend is this. It's got a sweetie, frothy tail. Like, piss off.
I've learned over the course of the year I like sweet coffees because just by chance that's what I end up with most, and that's what coffee tastes like to me now.
You're just a millennial wine taster. That's all you are.
Yeah, and I don't drink wine because I'm straight edge. So I gotta release the demon some other how, and that's through brewing delicious cups of coffee.
Oh dear. Connor's just a straight up alcoholic. There's no sugarcoating.
Look, you guys want a coffee and hockey shirt produced, let Pete know.
I had a busy week at work with extra overtime than I had anticipated every single day.
Wait, do you get paid for overtime?
I do get paid for overtime.
Okay.
But it was because it was so busy, they were like, can you stay an extra hour, an extra 2 hours, multiple days this week? And I get paid for it, so I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
If I didn't get paid overtime,
no, because I have a friend. I have a friend that works for a rather large company that is forced to work overtime because of shipment schedules. And to me, I don't think that's legal.
I think
but apparently it is.
Here, if you're salaried, you can legally do that. Right. Because you still get paid your salary regardless of how many hours you do ultimately at the end of the day. But because I'm paid hourly, I'm I literally paid by the minute. Right. So it's fine. I get paid for it, so I agreed to do it. But I was very tired, and I deserve this double old fashioned. So screw you, Pete.
Yes, you do.
That was the whole point. Is you deserve your drink.
I deserve this drink. I have had one glass of whiskey all week because I have not had time to sit down after work and enjoy a glass.
Oh man. The company's going under now.
Most people feel exhausted. Most people feel, when they're overworked. No, Carter's just upset he's not had time to drink more booze. That is
I don't want to drink loads of booze. I just like having, one glass, maybe two on an evening to sit down and relax and enjoy it. And I haven't had time to do that.
His liver has healed too much this week, and he's feeling too much of what his body feels now, and he's not used to it, and he's not happy about it, so he needs to dull it with booze again.
I believe that's called withdrawal.
Look, screw you.
Oh dear.
This is really nice, by the way.
I'm happy to hear that. This is delightful. I did destroy a computer monitor this week, so I had a pretty shitty night on Thursday. That was the thing.
It made me feel good.
I'm not laughing at your misfortune, but I'm also not laughing at your misfortune.
So I had to quickly drop a lot of money on a replacement because I couldn't do without something of a similar standard.
Yeah, and it's good to see that he did not blame the cats. I 100% would have blamed the cats, but he blamed his own clumsiness.
It was me. And I can't deny it was anything but me. But hey,
makes it funny.
It is what it is. But hey, which is why if you're watching the video version, we're back to a different angle. It's actually kind of more like the old angle that we used to have. but here we are. So, yeah, let's get to some news. It's basically, I mean, Connor's apparently got something to drop on us after I tell you about this first thing. But we have teams for the the milestone books that are coming. So we'll get into that. So Static, which is coming from writer Reginald Hoodlin and Leon.
No, that's the creators, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
That's the character creators.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I was reading the next book, not Static.
Oh.
I was reading because it says the second title, Icon and Rocket, is from writers Reginald Hoodlin.
But it does say that under the Static preview section. I'll let you off. That's bad formatting from Newsarama.
Yeah, it says Static 1 preview, and then the next thing is this, which is why I went to the wrong one. So I need to scroll up apparently to get Static. So yeah, Static's coming from writer Vitalia, with artist Nicholas Draper Ivy. So this is the 6-issue book that's debuting in April 11th with the first part. And then we got we got Icon and Rocket, which is where I was jumping ahead to. Reginald Hoodlin and Leon Chills. So that's coming in June 27th, starting with the first issue.
It's Doug Braithwaite on art. Leon Chills is a co-writer.
Oh, sorry.
I think Hoodlin is a OG milestone guy, so
yeah, which is
might
why
just
I
be
thought
there to
maybe
help
he
with the
was one of
transition.
the creators of Static.
Yeah.
He's in that generation of them.
Yeah. So might just be there to help along.
Yeah, that's Icon and Rocket. And then the third book, this is really bad format because they do it with the next part as well. It says Icon and Rocket preview, and then gives you the.
I think that because that's in bold, that's just referring to the image above it, and the couple of pages that you can scroll through.
If it was like if I had like a sort of box around the image with that included in the box, maybe it wouldn't be as
that would be better.
Thingy, but you know, it is what it is. And then Hardware is the third book. And where's the creative team on this bad boy?
Dennis Cowan and Bill.
Oh God, this is even worse. The format in this article is terrible.
Yeah. So Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz are on art, which I mean they're a really standard, classic pairing. They've been doing a lot of work together for years.
Oh, hold on. I want to complete this format before you start talking about the book.
Let me just tell you the writer, and then you can, and then we. And then
yes, let me know the writer, please.
Brandon Thomas, which you may recognize as the writer of Future State Aquaman.
Yeah. So that's fine, Brandon Thomas, but the team of Cowis and Sienkiewicz, I don't care about Hardware. Like out of all of these, that's the least one, right? I have no connection to that character, but that art team is a little bit tempting.
It's going to look good, yeah. Right, Pete, don't complain about your formatting. Okay, it is terrible.
This is terrible. So the way that works is you've got the text and the who's on Static, and then there's a big image of Static, and it says Static 1 preview, which leads into the description of the Icon and Rocket. But the one thing that's consistent, right? Once you've got used to this format, once you've got used to their silly format where the description's in 2 paragraphs and then it's the image, and then it's the paragraphs for the next one, it actually changes things up. Because after the Icon and Rocket preview text, right, you're thinking, oh, it's going to go straight into the third book, Hardware. But there's another paragraph about Icon and Rocket, and then the second paragraph there is the Hardware start.
And they put the artists before the writers, which is fine, especially as they're clearly the bigger names, and that's what you want your draw to be. But it just breaks the format of the previous announcements. It's badly written, this article, and badly formatted.
Now, don't get me wrong. I realize people are saying you should have read the article before the show. I take that on board. I take that on board. But you know what? Usually I can wing it, and it's not a problem if the articles are formatted in a very sensible way. This was not sensible.
Yeah. No. Before I actually move on to the other news story,
yes,
I have a formatting-related complaint to talk about. No.
Formatting and aspect ratios are two things I'd never want to hear again in my life.
No, this is good. This is in regards to the next Batman Second Son. The first issue from the Digital First series came out this week.
Okay.
And I read it earlier in the week, so I was excited by it.
And just to remind everyone, we are going to talk about this book once the 3 chapters that make the first physical book are out.
Right. Which is why I'm not here to talk about the contents of the book.
Or 2 or 3, whatever it is.
I don't actually know. We'll have to double check.
Yeah.
I specifically want to talk about the formatting with the digital format, which I tend to not have a problem with. It's the half pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually like 10 pages of content, realistically, if you put them onto a full print page. And I'm okay with this for the most part. It works fine for most of the issue until the very final 2 pages, at which point they are clearly actually drawing it for the print version. Because the final 2 pages are just literally split in half. It's one full page, almost not quite a splash. There's an extra little panel at the top, but the vast majority is just a splash page, just cut in half. So you have all this, the second to last page is the first half. You have a little panel at the top, and then you have this reveal, which does function as the end of an issue reveal, with dialogue, and then the actual last page is just the bottom half of that page, which has no text on it. It's just just barring the to be continued. There's no dialogue, no narration. It's just the bottom half of that splash page, and it is very frustrating because I feel like you just lost a page there. In terms of you turn the page digitally for nothing. There is no more content. There is no next page because this is still the same page. There is no more panels, and it's really glaring.
Well, that's not my problem with that. From what you're saying to me, my problem with that is just have it be presented as a regular page.
Right.
That has the whole thing.
That's fine because it is one page, and they've just cut it in half for this version. And if they presented it as just one page, that would be fine as well. But they clearly made the decision on an executive level that they do not want to force you to then rotate your screen into a vertical position. They want to keep it this landscape view, and you end up with just this split in 2 page with a pointless final page. It's horrific. It is the worst thing in the issue by far.
Surely you're in landscape if you're reading a digital format book, and you'd be switching to portrait. If this was...
I said switch it to vertical.
You said switch to landscape. Did you not?
I said they wanted to keep it in landscape.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. That's just still weird.
It's really frustrating, and it's just specific to this digital version. If you ever read the print version when that comes out, you will not have this problem at all.
That's weird. I'm all for them just designing digital books to match the format of regular books, and I've mentioned this many a time. Doing this where they're actively kind of harming the flow of the book by sort of breaking it up like that is just even weirder. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's terrible. But anyway, the other actual little bit of news is there is a new book coming, and it is a crossover book. Batman, Fortnite. No, but there is actually something interesting about this book.
I'm not going to interrupt you, but I'm out.
No, I'm out as well.
I'm out.
I have no intention of ever reading this. What is interesting to me is the distribution, because this is releasing on April 20th. It's the first issue. It's a 6-issue limited series starting April 20th in comic stores and digital platforms in 6 countries. And those countries are not what you would expect. It's Germany, Italy, Mexico, Brazil, Spain, and the Czech Republic. What's really interesting, though, to me at least, is this will then come to DC Universe. It says US subscribers, but I assume by this point it'll probably have launched everywhere because this is summer. After the series finishes, because it's twice a month, so it'll finish in July. It will then come to DC Universe after that for everyone else. This is such an odd and unique distribution of comics that I can't ever remember seeing them doing before, that I kind of wanted to mention it. Beyond, I don't care that it's Fortnite. That's irrelevant to this. It's the idea of them releasing in these 6 countries in their native languages and then bringing it to US platform after that. That's pretty different, right?
It's different. I'm not sure how interesting it is.
I think it's interesting from a business perspective of DC targeting completely different markets first and then just throwing it on their service after.
Well, I mean, they're 2 of the biggest pop culture names of the last. Batman's always
Fortnite the last few years is.
And that comes from me working around middle school age kids. I never want to hear Fortnite or see the stupid dances again. Like, so the fact that it's probably still big in other places, like I don't know how big it is now because I know like was that game shoot the one where everyone suspects you being
Among Us.
yeah, there we go. Feels like Among Us took up all the energy lately here that I see in all the memes and stuff from where Fortnite was before. But sure.
I mean, the print issues come with like codes that you can get some DC themed items in Fortnite.
Of course.
And it mentions that the when it comes to DC Universe Infinite, and you want to read it on there, it will generate a code for you, so you can still redeem the items that way as well. If you're in the US, I just thought it was a very interesting approach with them that they're taking to this, especially with something like say Fortnite probably would sell in its own right. Just Batman Fortnite would probably sell in the US anyway, right?
I mean, probably. I see. I don't know though. Like, who's this book for? Is this book for like fans of Fortnite, or is it for fans of Batman trying to get into Fortnite?
I think it's fans of Fortnite who are also casually fans of Batman because Batman's just that big.
Yeah, and it's written by Christoph Gage. Art's got Christian Deuce, a couple others on there that I don't recognize, but Deuce, obviously we've read a fair bit of his work, I think, on this show. Christoph Gage is, again, like a name that I think, from my knowledge, has worked a lot more at Marvel than DC, but it's not like a no-name person that's attached to this. So, very interesting to me that they're doing it this way. Not that I'll ever read it because I don't care, but I care about it from a business perspective as being intriguing.
I mean, it's cool that DC seems to be diversifying in how they're getting stuff out now. I mean, breaking off with Diamond last year, I feel is the first step, right, into trying new things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the cover, like the first cover is a Yanin with a Rocafort variant. Other variants,
or maybe this is
Jim
just
Lee,
for the
Amanda
collector's
Connor.
market. Yeah,
Maybe. Because it's going to be really rare if they're only printed in those countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I hear Fortnite and my mind just shuts down.
I get it, which is why I didn't want to, this is why I didn't share you the article beforehand, because you just ignore it. But I thought there was interesting business discussions to have rather than the actual comic itself.
Interesting is a bit of a strong word here. I would say
to me, at least.
Mildly weird is how I'd phrase it. Mildly weird.
I'll allow it. Did anyone want to talk about the Lineaverse stuff from Generations Forged?
If you just basically want to boil it down to it's Hyper Time Part 2, right?
Basically,
yeah.
I think this is clearly what's interesting about it is that this was probably what the plan for 5G was originally. If anyone who doesn't know, Pete included by the blank look, the Lineaverse is a universe where that Batman from Detective 27 that was in Generation Shad, I want to say the first one was called, is essentially the exact same Bruce Wayne that we are seeing today. They just age slower. So the world still moves through all the time progresses as normal, but our characters, our heroes in particular, villains, and a couple of other key characters like Alfred and Gordon, for example, physically just age slower than normal people, which explains why their longevity is there.
It's basically an explanation for something that didn't need an explanation.
Right. I know they kind of mentioned that. Okay, they didn't outright say this was the plan, but I think it clearly was. They did say that no, this fits neatly within the Omniverse, so this is just one multiverse has the Lineaverse inside the Omniverse, basically. Maybe they'll tell more stories in the future. I don't know. Who knows? I know. There's too many things inside it.
It's a rushing nesting doll of continuity, which I'm sure is going to piss off a good chunk of internet fandom.
I don't even feel like I was being convoluted in saying that. Like that is literally the steps. It just sounds bizarre.
So you have the metaverse and the omniverse, and then the dark multiverse, and then the linear verse within and it's just like, okay, just tell stories. Like, this is where we're at.
Yeah, I'm
like-
going to happily ignore this exists until at some point, all likelihood, will get brought up into main continuity by it'll be relevant to some
in about
story at
20
some
years'
point.
time.
Yeah.
So I know that like Jeff Johns is one of my favorite creators, and I might be a little more partial to the metaverse. However, I do feel like the metaverse is the best distillation of comic book time that we've gotten in the last, generation or so.
I get it. The way it
Of
explains the
comic stuff.
shifting and everything
Yeah.
happening, the different versions.
Right. Like, because it is the closest thing to what's actually going on, right? Like, different people have different impacts on those same characters, and that changes things and it splinters from there. And so that's how you explain the different versions of Batman, say, versus them being all the same person. It's like, well, technically they are, but, instead of Superboy Prime punching the universe, right, and it creating those shifts from Infinite Crisis, the metaverse is like, oh, there's been intent here, and now it's created a whole branching universe.
Whereas in the Linearverse, this is literally the exact same person. Like Clark Kent is exactly the same person, from Action Comics 1 to whatever the last issue of Superman in Action was before Future State. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess that's pretty much the news then. In terms of actual comic book stuff. I think there was some minor movie things this week, maybe?
Did we have the Supergirl casting?
Oh yeah, Supergirl casting happened this week. That's right. That's
cool.
right.
Before we get to the bigger one, I just thought, that would be easily overlooked.
Yeah, well, what's weird is I'm so used to Supergirl being a blonde, right? And so when they cast a brunette actress, it's like, oh, that's a different take, right? Like,
honestly, my reaction to this has nothing to do with who they've cast as Supergirl. And yeah, but obviously, I'll just make it clear, she doesn't need to be blonde, it's fine, whatever, right?
Yeah, no.
Right? Doesn't need to be blonde, doesn't need to be white, doesn't need to be a number of different things. My main takeaway from this, because if it wasn't clear, because if you haven't heard this story, you might be hearing this and going, wait, Supergirl was cast in what? That's a good question. And what, you might ask? Supergirl's been cast in the Flash movie. So this Flash movie is, until proven otherwise, I'm expecting a mess, if it exists at all. That is, that's a fair point.
That's the route I thought you were going. Until proven otherwise, it doesn't exist.
I mean, at least there's a director on, because this is the thing, they put out a video where the director actually told the actress, Andy Muschietti, who I do not think's a good director, I want to also point out, put out a video where he actually told the actress she got the job. And then they put that out on social media, and people could see how happy she was, and it was all very delightful. And it was fine. It was heartwarming stuff, whatever. But all I see is like too many things in this movie now. Which, by the way, is the Flash going to be in this movie? Because it feels like the thing you want in a Flash movie,
have as little screen time of Ezra Miller as humanly possible.
I'm just saying. First ever Flash movie. I would like a lot of Flash in my Flash movie. It's just, I'm a simple man.
But, no, I get where you come from, but do you want a lot of Ezra Miller in your movie?
Well, no,
that's your choice here. You can't. It's.
But that's not the only choice. You could give it someone else.
It's too late for that.
I mean, no. The Flash is the ultimate multiversal character, so if they had to recast, like, might as well. You're putting a hat on top of a hat on top of a hat. At this point,
well,
I would not be surprised if by the end of the movie they've recast.
Well, I mean, we don't even have to explain it away. They're already doing multiverse stuff. It's just a different Barry we're starting with. I mean, everything else has been so disconnected from the rest of this quote-unquote shared universe that who gives a shit? And besides, it's too late for that. How is it too late for that? This movie was better to be out in 2018.
Look,
nothing's too late.
I meant too late for that in the sense that they've clearly made up their minds that they want to continue with Ezra Miller, at least for this movie. That's what I meant by that. Not that it is physically time has gone on too far that we can't have something different.
It's very likely impossible that by the time this movie actually comes out, that it'll be a decade since they announced him. He was announced to play the Flash in 2014. And I know that because it was the same day the TV show premiered. Just let that thought sink in your head a little bit.
Which is like finishing soon, probably.
Oh, we don't know that. I mean, it's on season, 7?
I said probably.
Season 8? I don't know. It seems to be.
I think it's going into season 7 now.
I mean, I don't know. It seems to be they've not announced it's the last season, and they have announced everything else that's finishing as the last season. So I suspect it's getting at least a season 8.
Yeah. All I know is this actress. Her name's Sasha Kaye. She's on soap operas, I guess. So
This is the thing. I have no hot takes on her casting because I have no idea who she is. I mean, I I have no idea of her acting ability, so I've got nothing.
No, me neither. And that's what I wanted to get to. I'm like, if not to say that soap actors aren't capable of becoming more. I just it's one of those things where it was like, oh, okay, I have nothing to base this on.
No,
it's kind of almost like
starting on. So I mean,
well, I mean,
Robbie's a good recent example. I think.
I think a better example of Sarah Michelle Gellar, who of course was on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Cool, Supergirl, Flashpoint, yay!
I don't know if "yay" is the right word for that. But...
whatever. I'm glad DC still or Warner Brothers is still trying to make positive news, and stuff. I just
Do you want to talk about the other, probably bigger news?
Yeah.
Superhero movies.
Is this the potentially Black Superman? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So, J.J. Abrams, we'd heard rumblings that J.J. was going to produce a new Superman movie, right?
Yep.
And so now it was officially announced he's producing and bringing in Ta-Nehisi Coates.
That's the part that excites me more because he's writing, and obviously, people may know he's been writing Black Panther and Captain America for the last few years.
Also a novelist and a cultural writer.
Journalist, I believe he wrote a lot of big pieces. I haven't read any of his non-comics work.
Me neither.
I do have a couple of his stuff, just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, I want to. That said, I've been reading his Cap from the beginning, and it is a very good distillation of this country over the past
his
5 years
Cap
or so
is phenomenal. I think his Black Panther is very good from what I've read.
I haven't read any of that.
About halfway through his run, give or take.
Yeah. So
I don't think it's as good as his Captain America, though. I think his Captain America is spectacular stuff.
Yeah, it's very, very good. He gets the character, which as a fan of Superman, I have reiterated that if the MCU and Marcus and McFeely can make Man Out of Time Steve Rogers work in modern time, there's zero excuse why we can't get a Superman, that has the same kind of vibes. He's still kind of a Boy Scout, but in the modern times, that's what makes him work. And
as critical as I am of the MCU, that version of Captain America is relatively faithful and is also the closest we have kind of got to on-screen Superman before maybe last week. It makes sense.
But yeah, so when I add all that up and I think about what this project could be, as a Superman fan, it's very exciting. I don't have big issues with JJ. I know other people do. He made me enjoy Star Trek. What can I say?
I'm glad he's not writing it. I'd be concerned if he was writing it.
Me too. But he is a pretty decent producer, right? So like, I don't know if this is gonna be a Bad Robot type deal.
It probably is.
Just,
it's Bad Robot.
So like,
but he's kind of irrelevant though. I mean, producing doesn't really mean that whole much in terms of the actual final product. So what we're really looking at is writer and directing, and we don't know who's directing it yet. But it's JJ. I mean, if he was directed, they'd have said, and
they would have done. And I'm glad that he's probably not.
I think he needs a break after Rise of Skywalker. And just produce and do other stuff. Go make something like Felicity.
Ta-Nehisi Coates is a very positive sign. And because that news broke first, and then the rumors of it being a Black Superman came after, and it kind of just sort of clicked together. Like, oh, that makes some sense. Obviously Ta-Nehisi Coates can write any version of any character. He's doing Captain America right now. But it makes a lot of sense that if you're going to go that direction, that you bring in a writer with a journalistic background who has done a lot of journalism in that particular area to actually come in and lend the voice to that character.
I think his journalism background is probably the thing that leads me to assume most of all that it will still be Clark Kent. Because there's been a lot of theories that it'll be Val Dodd from the Tom Taylor Earth 2 stuff, which, don't get me wrong, I'd be all for. But I do think his journalism background leans towards me thinking Clark Kent more than anything.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of speculation that it'll be Michael B. Jordan, right?
Well, and we know that Michael B. went and pitched a Superman project maybe a year and a half ago.
It was longer than that. I'm pretty sure it was longer than that, but yeah.
Was it longer than that? I just remember it
was more like 3 or 4 years ago, I think. But
oh shoot, dang,
time's weird these days.
It is, but look, whatever it is, I just want a fresh Superman. I don't care, I want Superman that's representative of the character I enjoy from the comics, and really, I've yet to get that as an adult. Like Superman Returns was just, it was Reeve again. And it wasn't. I don't feel like it landed.
It wasn't bad.
No, but it's not like
it's not good. It's probably bad, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, like it's so, and then the whole other stuff, which I don't want to get into right now. It's not. It doesn't, make me feel good as a Superman fan. Let's put it that way. To see that character not acting like himself, so. I trust in Coates, and again, whoever the director is going to be, whoever they get to star, like, I just hope that they nail, if it is Clark Kent, that it feels like Clark and Superman. I
think even
that's what's been missing.
Val Zod, it still has to feel like Superman. I think that's
right
important because he is still Superman.
Right. So, but yeah, again, whatever it is, I'm very open to this. I had a friend text me yesterday with my thoughts. I was like, it's hard to have thoughts just based off of the writer. Because the script, that is a very key piece, but I kind of need to know who's directing and who's starring too, so I can get a beat on what to expect. So
yeah, honestly,
I do think Coates has a very strong voice though that could shape this quite significantly.
Honestly, yeah, I'm like, yeah, great. Like, honestly, the world's ready and needs a different type of Superman. Like, by all means. So I don't want to say I don't care per se, because that makes it sound like I don't care about that. I actually do care about that from that perspective, where I think it's a good idea. As far as the movie goes, though, and being excited or being hopeful, honestly, DC Warner Brothers have not earned my trust or faith in anything, and will not have for a while, I imagine. So, as of right now, I am cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic.
Well, which... That's where I've been for years now.
I even hear what Carr said there.
That comes out, huh?
I even hear what Carr said there, but he's smirking after us, so it was probably some dumb joke.
I made a dig. That's a Prey was pretty great.
It was trash. They right, move on.
Yeah. No,
it was
right,
trash.
But like, it was not trash. The movie itself, it was fine. It just wasn't a Birds of Prey.
It was a Harley Quinn movie, and as a Harley Quinn movie, I loved it.
Yeah. So, but like, I want everything when I go and sit down to watch a DC Warner Brothers movie. I want it to be good. I never go in there, and with the exception of a couple, wanting to
maybe
fail.
One upcoming one next month.
Yeah, well, even then, man. But anyways, I want them all to be good. So cautiously optimistic, and I generally like JJ. I love Coates from his Captain America run. So if that's any indication, it makes me feel a lot better. Now if they could just get a director that that inspires me more, then we're great.
It's the most positive announcement in a while, though. Still, like even if it is just a writer, it's like okay, it's a direction that I like, as opposed to I don't know. I haven't heard anything that I like the sound of from like this Flash movie, for example. I don't even know what they're coming after that because I can't keep track these days. They've announced about 1 million projects. That who knows what's actually happening over there.
I feel the same way with this one as when they announced Matt Reeves' Batman, right?
Oh, that's cool shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so like with Matt Reeves' Batman, I was like, oh, I like Matt Reeves. His Apes movies have been really good, so
it's like James Gunn Suicide Squad. It's like, I mean, I don't care about Suicide Squad really, but it's a James Gunn movie. I'll probably enjoy it. I'm more excited for that than anything else.
So, but yeah, I just want to I want to look forward to stuff and not, as of right now, I dread, and I don't want to feel the dread anymore. I mean,
Suicide Squad's their next actual release, right?
I think so.
That sounds right. I mean, I don't feel dread per se. I just kind of feel apathy. Like I'm not getting excited about anything they're doing, and
yeah.
it was funny. Is I wouldn't even say I'm excited for Marvel stuff either. It's kind of a weird thing where I just kind of trust that, and for the most part, I know that most of the things that pop up will probably be quite enjoyable or good.
But they'll turn out fine.
But I don't find myself having hype for Marvel movies that we know are vaguely coming in like 3 years. And admittedly, unlike DC, I know they're actually probably coming.
Yeah, obviously the latest delays are exceptional circumstances.
Yes.
For the most part, though, it's been the only things I can think they really cancelled were it was around the time that Netflix was doing their stuff and Inhumans shifted. Yeah, it was around that. There's a bit of a period there where things weren't quite as stable as always, but that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, no, regardless, whenever they get back to releasing movies, whatever was going to be in year 3 of Phase 4, I fully believe will be in year 3 of Phase 4. There's no concern about that. Whereas with the DC movies, okay, so the next couple are locked in because they've already been shooting and because they've got things ready, but everything beyond that point is like...
I pretty much believe in Suicide Squad and Batman, and anything after that is I'll believe it when I see it.
Yes.
Even this Flash movie, which, you know, they're adamant is happening, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. So it's fine because I saw a lot of positivity, and I'm glad people are happy about some of these announcements. Positivity about Supergirl. Obviously, there's a lot of shithead negativity as well, but a lot of positivity, and some of that does get lost on me as well, where people are so happy and are saying, "Oh, she's going to be great. She's going to nail it. She's going to do all this," and I'm like, okay, I'm glad you're excited, and I'm glad these things, but nothing about this also tells me that anything about this is going to be good either. Like, it's okay, fine, right? Let's see what's going to happen. I'm not just believing in it going to be good because I want it to be good.
Yeah, right. That's how I felt. I remember having arguments with people when the Flash show first started, and people were just excited when like names were dropped of characters they recognized, or like I had big problems with their Captain Cold early on. And just the characterization. And someone was like, I'm just happy Captain Cold's on the screen. And I was like, yeah, man, but like, you need a little bit more than that.
I mean, right? I like their Captain Cold, but not as Captain Cold. It is as an adaptation, if that makes sense.
I feel like they finally hit that niche in Legends of Tomorrow with that version of Luen.
I don't think he ever became real Captain Cold, but...
No, but that was closer than what we had gotten early on in the Flash. That but yeah. So I just remember, like, I don't know. It kind of seems, I don't say egotistical, but like we need to expect a little bit more.
In a way, it's almost a good thing we're getting to a point where there's not a lot of firsts left, because now they can't just rely on people will be excited because the name is being used.
Right.
So. Maybe it's a good thing that, because I mean,
get it all out of the system.
Definitely, like the back characters are definitely at that point. I remember when they announced, "Oh, hey, we've got a new Commissioner Gordon, we've got a new, Cobblepot," and all that. And I'm like, I've went through this like 4 or 5 times now, where you've announced a new Commissioner Gordon. It doesn't mean anything anymore, other than just, oh, that's a cool pick or not. But it's not like, oh my god, they've cast a Commissioner. Like, no. I've literally done this multiple times, even just in my later life, like just going from like Batman Begins on. I remember Oldman being announced. I remember whatever his face is from Gotham being announced for the TV show. I remember Simmons being announced for Batman v Superman, and then of course, so there's at least 4. Counting
Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright for Thingy is number 4.
Objectively, for me, the most exciting pick, because I'm like, because I probably like him the most out of all of these people so far. But also, I'm not like, oh, I knew Gordon. I'm not like excited by that either. I'm just I really like Jeffrey Wright.
I like Jeffrey Wright a whole lot. What's he gonna do with that character? I'm more interested in that.
I loved his stuff ever since, I think, probably since I saw him in Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Which is what, 2005?
I remember he was in that, but fair enough.
He was Felix Leiter, goddammit.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, but we don't, Connor. We're not Bond nerds like you are.
I know. He's Bond's CIA counterpart, essentially.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed, but sure.
Yes. Anyway, do you remember how jacked J.K. Simmons got for his Gordon, and then we barely ever see him? I was like, kind of want to see jacked old Commissioner Gordon a little bit. Like,
and now
Simmons had some guns.
James again.
He was also he was also like heavily dressed in like a coat the entire time. It's not like he ever even got him in a shirt. He was always in a coat.
And I was
Can you
like,
imagine
are
if
we
it
gonna
just
have
had
Commissioner
scenes of
Gordon?
him, like bench pressing Batman?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, are we gonna get him throwing Hanson like lariats on goons in Gotham?
I'm just
Like,
imagining Bruce as Batman. Because was it for BVS or was it just for
no,
Justice League?
it was sort of Justice League.
Oh, damn it! I was almost
Yeah.
imagining for BVS him going, "Hey Gordon, I need your hand with a dude. Come join in the fight."
They become the Predator meme, and it's Affleck and Simmons just flexing. You know.
Uh,
Oh
that's
man,
funny.
comics are fun, guys.
They're supposed to be anyway.
Yeah, right. Like, I gotta watch Stargirl still.
Yeah, that's good.
That girl's pretty good.
Oh,
That's
which,
pretty good.
real quick, and then we can move on. I feel like when Pete was talking about we're past like the first and stuff, I feel like Doom Patrol took full advantage of that because Doom Patrol is so weird at points. You're kind of like, what even am I watching? It's not even like a comic book thing, you know? Like you can really just get lost in the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, just look at it this way, right? Let's assume Marvel get their next take on Fantastic Four right.
Mhm.
This will be the third on-screen movie version. Well, technically fourth if you count the Roger Corman one.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
But let's ignore that. Let's ignore that. Just out of the actual released versions.
That's very generous of you.
Right.
Let's do what society collectively decided.
Right. But as it, well, technically it was never released. You can only get it via bootleg, so it's not like it ever actually officially came out.
I remember seeing it at a Comic-Con for the first time, and it was like Indiana Jones looking at the Holy Grail. I also wasn't spending $50 for a VHS.
Of course. Right. But let's assume they get that right. That'll be the third Doctor Doom. It'll be the third version of Fantastic Four in big budget movies. It'll be the third version of everything. And it'll just be, if they do get it right, I mean, obviously people might joke that third time's a charm, but ultimately it's just about being good at that point. It's not just about, oh, we have the names, we're going to do the thing. And don't get me wrong, in the cases where like they did something for the first time and they nailed it the first time, it's great when that happens. It really is. But I'm just, so many people.
There's a lot less examples of that.
I see a lot of people on Twitter being so like defensive, or because they hang their identity on certain characters, so they have to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting grumpy, and I'm grumpy right now because I'm tired.
I feel it too,
but but in general,
my parting words are, "Hey MCU, give me Mole Man, you cowards."
That's really.
I don't want
the hill
Doom.
you want to die on.
I want Mole Man.
I mean, Jason Alexander's free, so I mean, I don't see why they can't. But
Oh my god, George Costanza, Mole Man.
Yes.
Tell me that's not something you want to watch.
Or either that or George Costanza Stiltman. I mean, either one I think would work. For me, but hey.
I'm not even sure that would draw me back into the MCU at this point. And that says something.
You hater.
Hey, whatever. Let's move.
Let's move on before I
Talk
bring
about
up that
some actual
WandaVision made me cry.
Well,
Last night. It was very uncomfortable in my house.
that's why I hate bringing up the goddamn movies, because they always send us down a spiral.
Downward spiral like Edge.
It's funny, like I feel like with comic books, well, I mean, yeah, comic book fans can get a little annoyed in pockets like any fandom, but I feel like whenever we bring up the movies, like all the worst things I hate about social media start flooding into my brain.
Well, that's mainly associated with one particular group, though, let's be honest.
No, it's not, because everything I complained about today had nothing to do with Snyder fans.
Yeah, true.
It was more
True.
general things.
It's almost like social media was a mistake.
Pretty sure I've been down this path before.
Skynet's alive, and it's social media. It's destroying us from within, though. No missiles. We're just gonna,
Twitter doesn't need missiles.
No.
Yeah, well, look forward to content coming about the Snyder Cut next month, everyone. Look forward to it.
Oh, you doing something?
4 hours, 1 minute and 23 seconds.
1 minute and 20. I don't know why that's the funny part to me, but the fact that you know this
Because it is. I read that today or yesterday that because everything's news in 2021, the official runtime was announced, and it was 4 hours, 1 minute and 23 seconds. And I was like,
I have one question before we move on, and I promise this is the last question. Matt, Are you
Yes.
watching it?
Like, look,
Yes, he is. He knows he is.
if I'm on the street and I see a train run into a semi truck, am I not supposed to look?
There's a difference between you being on
I
the street
don't-
and it happening and you being like, ooh, look at that.
I'm not
And you
leaving the
actively
house
going out of your way to
thinking-
watch the train crash.
I'll tell you this much: I'm not watching it in one go. I have better things to do with my life. That weekend, also they're dropping Superman the Animated Series on HBO Max, which will be the first time I've watched it since I was a kid. So I'm very excited for that one.
Give me the HD Blu-ray remasters like Batman the Animated Series,
Yes.
you coward.
Yes. So also Falcon and Winter Soldier, I believe, starts that weekend,
I think
and
that
that
starts on like the 19th, yeah?
yeah, that's the same
Like a day
weekend.
late or-
Yeah, man, I hope those episodes are longer because there's only 6 of them.
Yeah, I whatever it is, I'm far more excited for that than I am for this other thing. So, but
Like,
again,
you're more excited for that than the Snyder Cut? I'm shocked. Who could have predicted that?
I am technically more excited for that in that I could watch it, but I don't. I mean, I'm probably not gonna watch either, but I'm definitely like not watching one of them. Like, yeah, where Falcon Winter Soldier. I mean, sure, I could watch it. I wouldn't hate myself.
Out of pure curiosity, I might start it. Doesn't mean I'll finish it, and if I do, that's a lie. I probably won't talk about it, which of course I have to talk about it. But you know, I can't help myself.
So what we've established is Matt's definitely gonna watch it. He's definitely gonna talk about it.
But I might just say to you guys, I might just be like, guys, I need help.
That's about. We'll set a recording time. We'll set a recording time. We can talk to each other about it on
If
camera.
you give Matt a schedule and a deadline, he's never gonna watch it.
No, I'll spring it on him after he's watched it. Once he's already done the work. And he's going to be so impassioned and wanting to rant about it that he's never going to turn it down.
I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if the thing is still up, but when we talked about the first trailer for BVS, it had dropped late on like a Sunday, and I was getting ready to go to bed, and Pete coaxed me into coming and talking about it, and it's just me sitting in the dark, angry like this.
I remember the initial review that me and Pete did for that. It was before the full review went up. I don't even know. Again, I don't know if this is still there. But me and Pete both went to a midnight showing. And
worst mistake of my life.
Yeah, no, I agree. And midnight showing UK time, so we were earlier than everyone else. And we got back, and we were both like, we need to do this right now. And we were just so angry the entire time.
Yeah. So, yeah, I expect that. I mean, it could be good just for my. It might be like therapy, where I just
it might be
spew everything that just is upsetting me in life just comes out
in the space of about 2 weeks, Matt's went from I'm definitely not watching it and I'm definitely not doing any sort of podcasting on it, and today it's more like, well, I'm probably going to watch it and I'll probably need to talk about it.
Why are we surprised? I say this every week about I'm not going to read as many books as I do. I have self-control issues.
To be fair, Matt, no. You did really well this week. You didn't read Generations Forged.
No, because I read a full book of Fatale. That's the whole reason.
Yeah, but that's good.
5 issues of an old book.
Yeah, but that's a good book, whereas Forged is
so good. Guys, if you like noir and horror, go read Fatale. It's fantastic.
Basically,
Peter,
have
you read it?
If you like anything, go and read any Brubaker and Phillips book because they're all bloody good.
True.
I read
Pete, have you
The Fade Out?
No,
That's
Fatale.
Fatale. Oh no, Fatale. I read the first couple issues of Fatale, and I have to admit I wasn't feeling it.
Okay. I would go back and visit. It's.
I've liked everything. Anything else I've tried by Brubaker, I want to make clear though I've liked. So it's just that's the outlier.
Because I've heard the same with Fatale, and that's why I was so hesitant. But my shop had all 5 trades on a deal, so I got them for essentially a quarter of the price.
You're enjoying it, right, Matt?
Oh my god!
I have heard other people say it's I've heard other people say it's their least favorite Brubaker Phillips work, and maybe that's even true for me. But I still think least favorite in their works is still such a high bar, though, that I still think is a fantastic book.
Yeah, it's almost good as the Bendis Rosmo joint. Yeah, I agree. So
I hate you so much. To be honest, I made all this talk about it's a long week. That's why I needed this double old fashions because I had to read bloody Bendis Legion of Superheroes.
Hey, real quick, do you muddle the sugar cube or do you add simple syrup?
I use Demerara syrup.
Okay, so you use syrup. Okay.
I do. I mean, because sugar cubes are not that common and accessible over here. They're not easy to buy.
Shocked.
Yeah.
I'm
like
shocked at the tea culture.
You can, no, you can buy them
popular
wholesale
culture.
for like cafes and stuff. But generally speaking, we just use granulated sugar and we'll just spoons in. Yeah. So cubes are not a common thing over here in households, which is why you really buy them in shops. So syrup's easier.
Easy.
I'll have you know, I've got element configuration, so cubes can be found in households in the UK. Thank you very much.
I didn't say they can't be found. I said they're less common.
I don't think Connor got my joke there.
No, I missed the first part of it. What was it?
I said I've got element configuration in my house, so cubes can be found in the UK.
I don't get it.
It's the cube from Hellraiser, Matt. It's a cube.
We've been over this. I haven't seen Hellraiser.
Connor said cubes aren't that common in the UK, and I was joking that there's plenty of cubes. He was being specific about sugar cubes, and I was expanding it saying, no, the cube does exist. It's not like there's just no cubes. There's like everything's a sphere here, or everything's a hexagonal thing.
To be fair, everything should be.
Who the hex? Like on WandaVision.
And like on WandaVision, yes.
Steve, you done the review for the new episode yet?
I have. I recorded it last night. It's going up later today.
Okay, cool. Because I just noticed it hadn't gone up. I didn't know if you were still doing it.
I put out Superman and Lois first because it was late because Connor kept working
because I kept doing goddamn overtime. I didn't get home till like 3 a.m. the other night when we were supposed to record.
Whiskey ain't gonna buy itself, Pete.
It was 3 a.m. I was like, and it was 3 a.m. and I was back in at 12 the next day. And I was
that's how he calculates his overtime. He looks and goes, oh, this is X number more units of alcohol I can afford.
Do you know what though? If I was to judge it by how much whiskey I went to, if I was to look at a nice bottle of whiskey, that's like a full day's pay, like easily. If I want to buy a really nice bottle, like as opposed to just that'll do. That's a couple hours.
I remember telling my friend about Pappy Van Winkle and how much it costs, and he goes, "All right,
yeah,
we're officially gone too far."
That's scary high. Yeah, but I remember being in uni and the common the way of judging cost was how many pints is that? That was the conversion rate of like how many pints can I get in a pub for that? And you obviously, and it's regional because like if you're in London, the pint in a pub costs way more than where I was, and even where I depends which pub you go to. But like, okay, well I can get 6 pints for that. This isn't worth it. That was the metric on which value was judged. So that's just uni culture.
I think for me it was Blu-rays, but that's different strokes.
I'm sure everyone has their own metric.
Hey, you're not about comic book in case you're unaware.
We're into the shit, are we now?
Look, we knew after last month rather, that week 4 this month was going to be a bit of a weird one because week 4 mostly had the books from Future State that weren't as interesting.
And let's be honest, we're all kind of a bit burnt out on Future State.
As last week, pretty much.
We're ready to get back to normal. I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of line by saying that for all of us.
I'm ready.
Like
I'm ready.
Collectively ready for real books again.
I'll tell you, I want more of a certain book. So
Matt, I'm right there with you.
Sure.
Matt,
yeah.
And earlier in the week was like, hey, have you read this book yet? Because you're gonna goddamn love it.
Yeah, Suicide Squad. Yeah.
And I have to admit, very excited based on exactly what Matt told me, and it delivered.
Well, all right, cool. So that's a segue.
Must have been Aquaman. Okay. That's about comics. Let me note this down for timestamp purposes. Noting down, or David can find it himself. Wapa! Alright, so Future State, Dark Detective, issue 4. By various people. Main story by Mariko Tamaki and Dan Mora, specifically. So this is wrapping up, although with a cliffhanger, so not really that wrapped up. And this is the we actually get a glimpse of number one, Peacekeeper 1 in the first couple of pages of this.
don't
not someone
recognize
who I
who that is at
recognise.
all.
Yeah.
Do you know what he was reminding me of? And I don't think it is him, but it was making me think of Kate Kane's dad. I was getting a bit of him.
Oh,
I could see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Hey,
he's
what if
got-
he's a Kane?
Yeah, no, honestly, that is probably the best.
It's gotta be Kane,
Yeah.
Matt. It's gotta be Kane.
I'm
well,
assuming that's a wrestling reference.
It was, yes.
No, well, yeah,
It was.
that part is, but
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Military, completely structured.
I think the problem is, I don't think this is supposed to be someone we're supposed to recognize after all, because
No.
there is no hint
but-
as to, even though it treats it like a reveal for us, like, oh, look at his face at last, and we've been speculating for weeks.
Mhm.
Oh, Matt,
Mighty
nice
Mike's
one.
going, it doesn't actually ever say their name. It doesn't do the thing that comics usually do, where someone will then speak to him and use his actual name, and it'll be
Mhm.
bolded so that you know it's important. It never does that, which makes me think that this probably isn't. Kane is probably someone else entirely. It's someone new.
The important thing, though, the important thing to note is that he is ginger, and that's the
Yes.
key detail to take away from this.
Look, we're secretly ruling the world.
Yes. Because it's the crazy old man's daughter. She's at work. She hears these orders about tracking what drones have went missing, and we find out throughout the issue that she is actually building intel. She's actually recording conversations. The idea that she can eventually take down the company, take down the magistrate, because they are trying to control everyone and have a completely controlled police state where Big Brother's always listening, all that kind of stuff. The stuff we've been playing with.
Yep.
Bruce is using the apartment as a trap to lure them in, and he's making sure that the old man's safe. So he actually drugs her as well when she comes in, demanding to know where her father is. So he takes them out to a van where they're passed out, lures in a bunch of drones and blows them up. And magistrate, or sorry, I keep wanting to say magistrate number one. He's not magistrate. He's peacekeeper number one.
He's peacekeeper one
Yes.
for the magistrate.
Yes.
And the magistrate is an organization, not a
It's
person.
not a person.
Yes. But I keep almost saying magistrate number one, but peacekeeper number one is like, he's alive. It's him. It's the Batman. He's
The
here.
goddamn Batman.
Yes. So she's not necessarily thrilled about being knocked out, but they kind of have a bit of common ground when he realizes what she's been doing, and does he actually say that he's Batman? I don't think he actually says that. No, he misses Bruce Wayne. He doesn't admit he's Batman. He's like, I'm Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the magistrate's building and starts causing chaos. But so does she. Against his orders, she also shows up and tries to get more evidence that she can broadcast to the world and sort of reveal who they are and what they're doing. But there's a self-destruct, and Peacekeeper 1 and Batman get into a fight.
And
As
Peacekeeper 1 knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Which
Right.
we kind of knew that because remember when Batman was like, oh, he knew that killing Bruce Wayne meant Batman was dead. So
Right. Which
Right.
I
This is
think
just
lends more
confirmation.
credence to your Kane theory. I don't think it's the dad Kane, but if it's a family member, that makes a lot of sense.
How many Kanes are there left?
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's not Kate.
No, not because we've seen Batgirl or Batwoman
Yes.
in the future state stuff. So, but no, I do think like just
Yeah, she's in Nightwing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So, no, I definitely think that this definitely is gonna occur in Tamaki's run. I think.
Oh, for sure.
I think a lot of this is seeding things that will be in that run. In the same way that we were talking about, like Tynan's picking up a lot of, okay, this is the birth of the magistrate systems and, everything like that. I do suspect that Tamaki stuff will be, okay, we're going to establish who this Peacekeeper 1 is and go from there.
Yeah, I suspect so.
But wait,
I-
isn't Tynan doing Peacekeeper 1?
Oh, maybe
Or was
he
that
is,
just
actually.
or was that
Uh,
was just a general Batman?
I'm not entirely
Hey.
sure.
Okay.
But I do actually really like the sequence towards the end here where the fight's happening, because the countdown that's happening on each page, sort of the distorted digital clock.
Yeah, it starts at about 3 minutes or so, I think, right? Or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
And it sort of jumps down sort of random increments as like everyone's like the the woman, the daughter's running from the building. She swallows her USB drive so that the droids and whatnot don't get to it. Batman's fighting Peacekeeper 1, a lot of explosions. The art is really good in this issue. The only thing that suffers with the art is that I get so used to having those gorgeous pages of Batman against all the neon lights, and there's not a lot of that in this issue just because of what's
There's
happening.
not a lot of that, but that's not a fault of the art, really.
No.
It's just a fault of the locations they're in, that it doesn't call for it. I do think the art is
But
it's very
probably
pretty.
the best part of the story, though.
it also shows some restraint on the creative team to be like, hey, those looked rad. We should do that all the time.
That
you know,
that page near the end where she's getting the USB stick in. I think the colors and that, it's so like flat with all these like reds and oranges. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then it's followed by this 2-page splash with everything kind of shattered, with all the panels in various places. Absolutely gorgeous. Because I actually think the story is relatively unfulfilling as an ending to this 4-part story. I'm like, okay.
It ended with, I mean, it ends with a bang, literally, because the building explodes. But
yes,
but it doesn't end with like a big, like meaty kind of moment that I thought it would, in the sense that I like this ending. If this was just like part 4 of 6, I'd be like, yes, this makes sense.
Right.
But it's technically the end of this for now, which makes me think that we're definitely going to get a continuation of this, even this part of the timeline, whether that's in Detective, whether that's in that Future State Gotham book at some point.
Yeah,
I agree with that. We'll probably get more, but as just a 4-issue series in its own right, this ending is relatively underwhelming. But the art is goddamn gorgeous, especially at the end here of this issue, where it is building up to these final few pages. I think they are some of the best pages in this issue.
I do think it makes me quite confident about Tamaki on Detective, though.
I never really had much worry about that, though.
Neither did I, admittedly, because I like her work anyway. But
it was always Tamaki and is Dan Morrow doing that?
Yeah.
I thought so, because I know Once a Future, which he's doing with Gillen, is taking a 3-month break between arcs, presumably so he can do the first arc of Detective. So I'll probably only have him for an arc, admittedly, but that team alone is that was enough to get me on board without these 4 issues.
Yeah. So, yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was well written. I thought it was paced very well. Even though, ultimately the story of these 4 chapters isn't really much, other than just this is the type of police state. This is sort of the nanotech they're using to spy on everyone, and Batman's trying to wage war on them. That's ultimately what the whole story boils down to.
Yeah,
that's a bit disappointing to me.
It's kind of hard when you have like this, whatever Future State is, you only have a limited time to tell stories. So I kind of, between this and even the next Batman, they don't feel like contained stories.
Yeah, they're clearly the start of something that's continuing in some
weird
form.
I think the Gotham section of Future State is, to me at least, the most underwhelming, in that it's the most open-ended. It's the one that feels like, okay, we're definitely continuing this, so you don't have to tie things up neatly.
Do you know what's so funny though is I actually think it was the best corner though in terms of like the overall mood and tone, art quality, writing quality. Like, obviously I'm not saying there was no other good examples, but it feels like everything was so, even the backups. I mean, the Gotham section had some of the best backups.
I mean, I'm going to get to the back of this one. I'm not going to spill my thoughts on it too much, but I think the backup in this issue is better than the main story, and that is possibly the only time in all of Future State I've said that.
Well, Carl's a big Jason Todd fan, Matt, so that makes sense.
Yes, I know.
Screw you all.
But no, yeah. So like, and just like with, again, I have to know how the timeline works. So what happens to Bruce after this that leads to him showing up in Catwoman? Where does that take place?
I suspect he gets nabbed here, and that's why they've got him on the train. So no one knows Batman's alive yet, because that's a surprise to a lot of people on the train. So I suspect that this leads almost directly into Catwoman. So yeah, maybe this does kind of, you have to connect the dots a little bit yourself, but that's might be where he gets captured.
That's fine if you're looking at it as an overall story, but that's still, as a book, if I was just reading Dark Detective, I'd probably be pretty disappointed by this ending.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty clear that Future State in general was never designed to be a lot of contained, finished things.
Well, that's the thing. Some things really are.
Right. So you could do that. You could contain things,
and I think probably they should. I think the better choice would have been do contain them, but leave them open that you can do more story later if you want to. Don't be wrong. Not saying close it off completely.
I'm not
saying,
arguing that that's not the right choice, but clearly this was never built that way in mind from the start.
I think specifically the Gotham section was never built that way, and I think that's a mistake because I think other sections were built with let's just tell a 2 to 4 issue story, and those have probably been my favorite sections of Future State. Even though if this was an ongoing book, I would like it a lot more. But as a 4 issue mini, I judge it on a different scale because of. I expect it to be a 4 issue mini, and because of that, I am a lot more disappointed by it. Even though I really like the team, art is gorgeous, and I am kind of excited to see it continued at some point.
Yes. Right. What are you giving this main story?
I'm gonna give this one a 7.5.
Connor?
6.5 from me.
I'm gonna agree with Matt in the 7.5. I think the ending being kind of a non-ending is why it's there, but I think it's still really well told. The art's really good, and I thought the pacing was fantastic as far as an action issue goes. So I am excited to explore more in this world. So if that was its purpose, it succeeded it well enough. So the backup story, which I did read, this backup.
Good.
So I mean, I think it's interesting though that again it was the Gotham books where. Most of the other books that had backups, I kind of didn't read a lot of those backups in the second month. I just didn't want to.
Hit or miss for me, because I didn't in like the next Batman. The last issue of that, I didn't read any. Whereas, I did in this, obviously. So.
Yeah, but I don't know if I did in the last next Batman, but in the third next Batman, I read the next parts of those, and I read the backup in the last Dark Detective, which was different from this one. So. I've read most of the backups for the Bat books, which is just because I wanted to, because they were good.
I wonder if whoever's the group editor for the Bat books is maybe just, I won't say doing a better job, but has a bit more of a bit more freedom in that. Clearly, as we were just saying, the Gotham section is clearly where they're going to be continuing Future State stories for definite. Whereas maybe the others were a bit more open ended, so they had a bit more freedom in their backups.
I don't know about that. It might even be the opposite in a weird way. Like, I feel like they have more. Like, there's more of an effort for everything to be in a coherent corner with all these backups, and they all fit together nicely. Plus, they've got maybe a better choice of creative teams. I don't know. Whereas a lot of the other backups feel a bit more just kind of whatever.
Okay, so you're saying like at least like. In this example here, Red Hood is clearly Gotham, and clearly Batman related,
yes,
as opposed to Mr. Miracle or Black Racer in the Superman book.
And on that subject, I mean, wasn't it the Superman backups? There were two of them had a very similar, like plot beat.
They were, yeah. They both had time loops as being a plot device,
and so that to me that says that there was almost no editorial oversight, like making sure they all fit together. It was just everyone go away and write something, and we'll just. I mean,
I was saying this was better editorial anyway, so you're kind of agreeing with me, even though you were.
I'm saying it's better because it's more controlled, and not that they're giving the writers more freedom. It's that there's actually more reining in, and
right. But that's what I'm saying, because they were I said it was better editorial because they had planned on continuing this. So because they had more plans, they maybe focused on it a bit more.
Aye.
But yeah, I mean, either way, I think a lot of the backups in the Batman stuff have been.
Everyone note down. Simple. I was more correct than Carter. We can move on with the lives. All right.
I was just getting Mr. Dr. Evil vibes when you just went right.
So this is the Red Hood and Ravager story, where he's got a hit out on now from the magistrate, and he actually thinks it's a mistake at first, and he calls up like the Home Office, is like, "Hey, why is there a hit out on me?" And like, "Oh, that's a mistake, but maybe you should turn yourself in and we can fix." And obviously, whoever's on the other end is trying to lure him in as a trap. So I was actually oddly kind of disappointed at the end when it turned out it was just kind of a weird error. Apparently, it was like,
what was it? Because it seemed to me that White Rabbit is like the magistrate's also working with the underground.
Yeah, I don't think it was an error. I think it was more just
they were burning him.
once they were caught out by the end, they were like, well, let's get it back on side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that
I
works.
should mention the creative team for this half.
Make Pete say it.
Yeah. Go on,
Josh
Pete.
L. Williamson and Giannis.
There you go.
Milo no Giannis.
Milo no, yeah.
On art.
Giannis.
Yeah.
There you go. I will say real quick too, I enjoyed the art in the second half more than the first half. Like,
that's a really bold statement.
That is bold. I mean,
wait. He said this story.
Of this story. Of the Red Hood.
Okay, all right.
I thought you meant of this issue as well.
No. If you remember the last time, I felt like a lot of the facial expressions and stuff were blank and very Tintin-esque. Here, I don't know if it's because of the action or just the different breakdowns, or I knew kind of what to expect. I enjoy the art on this side a little bit more.
And anytime Red Hood has that, whatever the spinny nunchuck with the scythe on the end is called, I'm sure it has an actual name.
It's a ninja style weapon. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. Whenever he has that, it looks goddamn fantastic.
I always say it's like a Kurigama or something like that.
Let's see.
I mean, you may well be right. Who knows?
I'm pretty sure I used it in Neo. I'm just trying to remember what it was called.
I think it was in Neo, which is why I was going to say you definitely know where it's from.
Let's see. It's loading. He's close. A Kusarigama.
There we go. I knew it was something like that. Kusarigama.
Again, which translates to chain sickle, which is exactly what it is.
It exactly is a chain sickle.
Yeah.
All of the action with that looks. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, the art's very good here for movement. So anytime he's on the bike and he's racing around, or Rose is chasing him, for some reason, Red Hood makes the choice to put on the Mad Hatter version of the Red Hood helmet.
I also thought this was a really weird choice at first, and I was like, why has he done this? It's not until it gets to when Ravager shows back up that I understood it.
Obviously, he's counting on her precogging ability.
Her seeing the future enough that they'll end up in this place, and that's why he's put it on to like guarantee what would happen and take away his free will essentially to influence the future and make it that no, it'll definitely be whatever she saw.
Yeah, there's I mean, I actually did laugh out loud at one point here because when Rose shows up, when he's here meeting White Rabbit, because it's not actually Mad Hatter. She's kind of stealing Mad Hatter's tech, and is distributing it and so on. And she was working with the magistrate for a bit, but then she went rogue because that got boring. There's a whole thing. But there's a moment here that made me laugh where she shows up, and at first it's like, oh, is she going to just turn on Red Hood? Because I've been teasing that all issue that she might turn him in for the reward because it's so much money. And White Rabbit says to Red Hood, who's got the the mind control helmet on, kill her. And Rose says, we've danced before. Who do you think taught him all of his best moves? And White Rabbit goes, Batman. And she goes, ouch. And she says, it don't work. And she makes this explanation of one of my upgrades to the Mad Hatter tech is it unlocks all the deep things we could get bogged down in.
I hope he doesn't have any repressed issues.
Yeah, and Rose just dropped. I mean, it's censored, but she's clearly just dropped an F-bomb, and that made me laugh. Her going shit.
Honestly, Rose is probably my favorite part of this story. Right at the start, when the bounty comes up, she's like, "Oh, Bill could retire with that kind of money, And then it pulls out, and he's already gone. And she goes, "Oh, foreplay," and with this smile. I'm like, oh, okay.
That was funny. And I think what's coming clear here is if you want us to like a Red Hood book, you make it a Rose book that just happens to star Red Hood.
Yeah.
And then it's okay. Then it's funny.
And I will say, as much as I like this art, and I think it's great, no one can save that stupid tall helmet.
Oh, the tall helmet's silly, yeah.
And I think that's
goddamn terrible.
And I think that's the point of it, though, right? Like, it's so ridiculous.
It's so stupid. I can't look at it and take it seriously.
Yeah, So anyway, of course, eventually helmet gets broken off. Rose hits it, and they get into a big fight with all the bad guys, and they have to run up the building.
Again, there's a lot of chemistry between them, though. There's the point where she hits it with the sword to smash it intentionally, and he's like, free from the tech. He's like, oh, I knew you'd find me. So you're lucky I have a crush on you. And it's just, oh, okay, I'm really getting this pairing. This is probably this pairing, which I do think comes from Taylor. I don't remember it ever happening before that.
No,
is
I'll credit Taylor.
The best thing to ever happen to Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
That
No, I
it's
was
just without a
say,
doubt.
that's why I like Williamson, because he made this work, right? Like everything. I shouldn't like this story whatsoever because it's Jason Todd. And it's it's whatever. It feels it's a backup. So, but like I feel like Williamson's like the sense of relationship between the two, he just nails. So and everything, and nothing feels forced with them.
Right.
Like
I mean,
it feels very natural and.
even to give Williamson more credit, still, which I feel like I need to give him some credit because I was very harsh on the ending of his Flash stuff, even more so
Yeah.
than
Connor was harsh on something. No.
And I stand by my criticism and dropping of Flash. I want to make that clear. I do not regret that whatsoever. But at the end of this story, Jason has an interaction with what is very, very heavily implied to be Batman.
Yeah, the
I like
mysterious
this.
off-camera person that he's actually working for to take
Mhm.
down the magistrate from the inside. Yes, he's working with someone, and obviously your mind goes to Batman's the one in the alley he's talking to, but it never reveals it. It never reveals who he's talking to.
It doesn't, but the final line of dialogue in the book is the sun's out, you better get to bed, and there's a very heavy implication that this is Bruce, and as someone who has read far more Red Hood than would ever care to admit, all of the stuff in that book, whenever he was even semi-friendly with Bruce, felt wrong.
Yeah.
Felt forced. Whereas this here, like against a greater good, sort of like for a greater good sort of premise, feels like a really natural use of Bruce kind of accepting Jason to some extent. He's the man on the inside, without also betraying what Jason as Red Hood kind of is.
Yeah.
It feels
As
like
the
a really
outsider.
smart use of that relationship.
Solid backup. Shockingly, we're all positive on a Red Hood story.
I know.
Yeah.
Matt, what are you giving the Red Hood story?
I'm gonna give this one an 8.
Connor?
8.5 for me. And for the record, Matt also gave this backup higher than he did the main story.
Well, I'm going to continue that trend because I'm also going to give it an 8. Very good action and motion in the art and the pacing. The chemistry between Rose and Red Hood, very good. So I can't really fault. I suppose if we're rating the book as a whole, Matt, where are you going?
I'm doing my math right now. So I guess I gotta give the whole, because we don't do less than or more than a 0.5, less than a 0.5.
Yeah.
So I'll round up and I'll give it an 8.
Connor?
I'll split the difference between mine and go with the 7.5.
I will concur with Matt and round up to the 8 because ultimately I was quite happy with my experience reading the book.
Yeah.
So, cool. Next up is Future State Superman House of L issue 1. Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Scott Godlewski on the art. So first things first. Godlewski's not a bad artist, but he ain't no Yannon. So compared
In
to
his defense, few people
He's
are.
not trying to be.
few people are, but it's just because those previous 2 issues with Johnson were like exceptional. The second one got the full slate of 10s from his, which.
I don't think I'm going to spoil anything right now by saying this isn't going to get a 10 from me.
This is the weakest Superman issue Johnson's done, and why is Matt shaking his head? Do you think this is better than any of those last 2?
No, well, not better. It's different. So I'm not going to. Because I thoroughly enjoyed this, but for different reasons than I did the other one.
I also love this issue, and it will be getting a high score that will reflect that.
Yes.
It won't be getting a 10.
No, but again, I don't know. I guess it's fair to say it's weaker than the other 2 if you're just grading it on terms of score. However, it left me feeling the same way
with its scope and what it means.
Johnson fully understands Superman as a character and what it means for legacy.
What's really interesting is earlier in the week, Matt messaged me and kind of gave me what this book is and why I should be excited for it.
Yeah.
And it definitely did excite me for it. And he also said Pete might hate this book. So I'm really intrigued. Did you like it?
Before I answer that question, I actually am intrigued. Matt, why do you think that I might hate this book?
So it's been well documented when we've discussed, things like Justice League Dark or Wonder Woman. Me and Connor tend to like the world mythology takes. Like we care about myths and legends and how that applies with comic books. Whereas you're kind of like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like, but you don't go like you're much more of like a sci-fi kind of
Sci-fi, and I would say the actual human drama of it beyond just the
right.
Because we like the larger than life myth and legend of it, the
So,
grand scale.
Yeah. So when this issue starts delving into almost Arthurian legend of the Superman mythos, I was just like, I don't know if Pete's going to be exactly down with this. Like, it's got spacey sci-fi stuff, and it does have, the human drama like Connor's bringing up. But I don't know. I was getting like, this is a legendary kind of story. And I was like, I don't know if Pete's going to dig it as much. To be fair, I didn't say you would hate it. I did say that
you said you might not like it.
Not like it as much as we are. Where I felt like after I'd read it, I messaged Connor. I'm like, I feel like we're going to line up and just glow about this. And Pete's going to be like, yeah, it's fine.
I really want to find the exact quote of what you said.
Yeah, go ahead. It was also super early in the morning when I had read it. So
it was. He said, he was asking, asked me if I'd read it. And I said, no, yeah. He goes, said, Pete's probably not going to like it that much. Was the exact quote.
There you go.
Interesting. Where do I start then? I suppose I think it's fair to say that it's maybe less to my taste than his previous two issues. I think his previous two issues were exactly because of the thing. I do like the idea of myth and legend in a certain context, and the context of like how these characters can become myths and legends to the world around them, and how building themselves to be larger than life is. This I didn't dislike though. It's kind of the sort of thing here where I will care far more about this pocket of Superman mythos if we spend more time there and we get to know more of these characters and I get to know them a bit better. Because right now, I mean, as far as I know, these are all new, right? This is just a complete new slate of characters.
Pretty much exclusively, yeah.
Yes.
Outside of when Superman himself shows up.
Outside of one.
Yeah.
One notable exception.
Yes.
When he returns from Avalon, essentially.
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I didn't get any King Arthur comparisons. I don't know the stuff well enough to even get any of that.
Oh, me and Matt will dive into that later then.
I'm sure you will. I didn't get the joke Matt just made. I have no idea what you meant. So
but you don't know what Avalon is?
I know Peter Avalon.
Oh, you need some education, my friend. You need some real education.
Oh no, that's a wrestling thing, Connor, and completely not in place.
I mean, no matter what it was, I was like, whatever it is, it's not right.
No.
Yeah, I don't care about learning about King Arthur.
Avalon, I know Frankie Avalon. Both of those don't have anything to do with King Arthur. Anyways, King Arthur, Arthurian legend, quick beats, falls in battle. They take him as he's healing into the mists of Avalon, where he's set to return until Britain needs him again.
Avalon is basically Arthurian heaven, where he's not actually dead, but it's kind of there. It's like an afterlife. Yeah. You can return from it. Basically, think of Arthur as Jesus in this context, and returning from Avalon is returning from the dead. Right? It's the rising again of Christianity.
Right. So when we finally get to Superman in this book, it's very much, I was getting the big.
Yeah, I'm going to ignore all of this because if I pay attention to this, it'll just make me like it less. So I'm not paying attention to any of this.
Matt, have you started reading Once Future yet?
I don't.
No, I'm going. Let me finish Fatal.
As soon as you finish Fatal, it better be the goddamn next thing you read. If it's not, I will bloody buy it for you.
I might even pick it up physically instead of digitally, just so I have it. Yeah.
Should.
So, anyways, this book.
Yes.
How's it all?
Anyways, right. So some of the things I like, I do, because it's kind of, to me, this felt like a almost a specific view on a different kind of Legion take, which is like we're way in the future. It's just we're specifically dealing with the family line, right? So it's whoever's left of the House of L, and some red, what was it, the Red King, I think they were calling him early on. Some mysterious Red Kings waging his war on whatever's left of the House of L, which later on includes an army of Doomsdays, which whatever. But there's one of them's a Blue Lantern. There's a Brainiac there. We get introduced to a few of those. There's the sort of the angry
barbarian.
Yeah,
There's a barbarian.
There's a
in a
Temerian.
historical context, reminds me a lot of like the House of Wessex with Superman being Alfred the Great.
Stop ruining this. Stop ruining this. Anyway, so right, the parts I like the idea that like the myth of Superman has been going so long that people still believe in the teachings, but some of them actually doubt that he ever existed. And if anything, my only real complaint with that, because I like when it came up, when the Temerian, who's during the issue loses her father, doesn't really believe that it was a story, it's something to teach us, but he never really existed. Like Superman, that was something we just told ourselves to sort of make peace with the idea that our planet was dead, and we all had to kind of like go elsewhere, blah blah. The fact that she has his existence proven by the end of the same issue is maybe my one complaint of that concept. I'm like, I almost wish we went a whole arc with this character thinking that Superman wasn't real.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but this is constrained to a one-shot.
Yes,
I think
yes.
I would rather that it give us this and give us the condensed story than just leave us hanging like some of those 4-issue minis did.
I will say, it does a decent enough job in making me like, or at least understand, the 4 or 5 distinct characters it was playing with. So I think I trust that Johnson is going to do a good job with more conventional stories. I don't imagine every issue of his Superman in action are going to be like those 2 last issues we got. No, because not everyone can, right? They can't all be that in that style.
This reminds me a lot of his work on The Last God, which is a fantasy book, which is...
Let me finish my thought, right? So that makes me comfortable that he's going to be able to tell more conventional comic book stories with the idea of what Superman means, all these things. That's good. I will say, I don't think this issue needs to be as long as it was. It's like a 40-something page book. And a lot of it is action, which is fairly well done action. But, but by the time we were getting to Armies of Doomsdays, I was kind of like, you know what, this is maybe overdoing it a little bit.
No, but see, I like it because that was meant, so psychologically, right? You have this House of L. They all wear the symbol of that house, and the one thing that killed originally the House of L, right, was Doomsday. So of course the big bad is going to try to weaponize that, and it's almost what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like he's taunting them, right? Like, there's nothing you can do about this. This killed your symbol, and so I do like that. And I like how they kind of handle it. They know they can't rush in there and hand to hand.
I suppose the other thing that kind of doesn't work for me that well in this issue is when we get the reveal of who this Red King is.
Right.
The name that I couldn't pronounce.
Imperious.
Pierce.
Yeah.
Weird word. Anyway, so the part of
very Greek, which makes sense given his origins.
Well, his origins, the thing that I didn't like though, or at least when I say didn't like, it didn't land for me in the sense that it's like, wait, Cersei kind of tricked Superman into having a kid with her? Is that what's
absolutely makes sense for Cersei?
Yes.
I mean, right. We know.
I'm not saying that.
Superman is weak to magic.
Hold on. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense from Cersei's point of view to try and do that, but as for reading a Superman comic where I'm not expecting any characters from Wonder Woman to be relevant to anything that's going on.
No, but so
out of nowhere, he's got this illegitimate, well, kind of illegitimate, I suppose, but this weird son that he had much later in life, seemingly, that Cersei's tricked him into.
Illegitimate is exactly the right word, given what this book is doing.
It's a lot.
I mean, this is Mordred.
It's a lot to. I don't know who that is. It's a lot to swallow. And like, okay, this is a weird concept you've introduced here in the last 5 pages of this book. I guess I'll roll with it.
Right. But for what it represents, right? If I'm looking at this like it is a myth and a legend, and that each piece of this is representative of a different chunk of the Superman mythos, right? Then, of course, the one weakness that anybody can exploit isn't just magic, right? But it's a sense of legacy and family to Superman. And so, of course, it's going to be this illegitimate kid that is, trying to end what it means, of this whole Kryptonian or human, whatever the other group represent. And so to me, like, of course, I don't want to think about how Cersei was able to trick
That's
Clark into
magic
producing
bewitchment.
offspring.
You have to assume, right?
Right. And how far after Lois and John and all of this does that happen? Like, you know, I don't think Johnson's going to
I
get
would
to
say
that.
far enough, because the others are descendants of Clark.
Right.
That is undoubtable, and
Right.
you have to assume that is mostly through John.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe
John was spreading his seed around a bit, was he?
I'm just saying, if you look at like a lot of Western Europe, at least 60% of people right now are descended from Charlemagne. That's not weird, given enough time.
I know it was a joke. I know how like generations work and how one person leads to like thousands of people. I'm not a goddamn idiot.
John, that I'm not saying he's weird, sex crazed fiend.
That's your fault for not getting how dumb that joke was.
What if he is?
Maybe he is.
But what if he is?
Maybe he is. Yeah. I don't know for sure that he's not.
Oh, man. I mean, he was hanging out with Yara Flor. You know.
That's true. Who would blame him?
No, right? Like,
why does that explain him having sex with other people, though? That makes sense why they have a kid. It doesn't make sense why he's off humping every other woman left, right?
And he's like, hey, you know, I can't waste these genetics. I gotta produce as many kids as possible. You know?
Oh.
It's like a Lantern Corps of Superman.
Oh.
He really is an old European king.
Oh,
yeah, so
jeez.
Anyways, so you get this Imperious guy, and he shows up as the Red King, and I'm kind of like, at first, I don't like it, because I don't want to sully the Lois and Clark and that whole pure, you know,
relationship.
But then when you think about that, it's Cersei, and that she's combining Kryptonian heritage with magic, and of course that would run completely opposite to what Clark Kent's legacy would be, not necessarily Superman's, right? You know,
yeah.
I like it, and then how he comes and he wants to bring the end of the line because all of them are descendants and they're basically pretenders, and he's the one true heir, and he's gonna burn it down because that's his right. And his name Pyros comes from the Greek word for flame, right? Like it's a little bit on the nose.
And then there's this element of primogenitor with him being the actual son,
right,
of Clark. So he has this birthright that the others just being other descendants. He has the seniority.
I'm laughing at Matt saying it's on the nose. I'm like, yeah, it's on the nose. Yeah. Yeah, beat me over the head with it. Yeah, I totally got that.
But I've got, like, you've heard the term funeral pyre, right?
Yes.
So you would guess that it probably comes from the Greek word pyros, meaning flame.
I don't know. Pyrrhus was I've never heard Pyrrhus in my life before. Why would I assume that's anything with the word pyre?
How could you look at the name here, Pyros, and not assume that was Greek, and then go, all right, okay, what else sounds like that?
I wasn't thinking what else sounds like it.
Pete's not an etymological.
Yeah. Me and Matt are way too into the weeds with this stuff, aren't we?
I'll just to sum up my thoughts, because you two are going to go on for like 10 minutes, and I just want to stay quiet. So the whole Cersei thing wasn't exciting to me. It was just kind of weird, and I don't know how to take it. And like, they're going to have to like sell me on this with more stories that make sense, that make it all work for me. Right now, how it links up with Arthurian legend, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit.
I think it's rad. Like, you know.
I mean, the idea of it needing more stories, to me personally, is baffling. It's clear that Cersei at some point bewitches him to give her a child, and she's like, the idea that she can use this as world domination makes perfect sense to me.
Right, and especially how we know Cersei uses men. Right, like the whole story in the Odyssey.
I'm not saying it's out of character for Cersei. Yeah. I'm saying it's a weird turn in this story.
But I don't think it is, because that happened so far in the past. It's a story that, to our perspective, hasn't happened yet, of course, but it could be still far in the future as well. At the same time, given how far in the future this actually is, and like I say, Cersei in the Odyssey, I believe she turns men into pigs, right?
Right. Well, depending on the telling, it's all different kinds of animals. So every animal that's on her island was a man that washed up on the shore, because that's how she views them, right? But also the fact that this is Brainiac 4, right? So this is before Legion times. So where Superman becomes an image, like a symbol as well, like, and not that it's necessarily linear, but just the fact that that Johnson chose a Brainiac 4
as opposed to
here,
7 or 8.
7 or 8, and maybe even in the future. It's just, again, I love that the story acts as a what, like, it takes the theme of belief and the themes of legacy for Superman and shows what that means in a future. And that even though by the end of it, right, Superman shows back up because Brainiac 4 is able to locate him in some far off area. And he shows up when they need him the most. And he doesn't fight Puros. He, as Superman that we know and love from the War World stuff,
like,
he talks him down.
I've got a better place for you. I know a place where you'll fit in better.
Yeah,
where you can belong.
Right, and I love that even though this dude has killed descendants and waged a war against the name of El, Superman's like, hey, dude, you're just really upset, and let's work on this.
And I love that he gives a particular shout out to Brandon, which is the father that
which
died.
is Tamaranian, right?
But he is the most human, the most normal of all the characters, right? All the rest are like, really obviously super in a lot of ways.
Right, and he's the one that told the Tamaranian, who's Theander, told her the stories of Superman as if they were bedtime stories.
Right.
So he was almost
mythologized Superman.
Right. He is the storyteller here in that aspect. And, the fact that he's the one that dies and basically sacrifices himself.
I think it's really notable. He's the only one to go by Kent instead of L as well. He's Brandon Kent. And all the others are something L.
L, yeah. And I also like, well, and we get into this too, that like the two Supermen, the twins, right? You have Rowan and the other one.
Ronan.
Who?
Ronan.
And yeah. So Superman becomes like a title for like Earth or whatever they're on, right? So there's still only one Superman.
But there's a lot of L's.
But there's a lot of L's. So I also like that idea too. Like, it's not necessarily passing on like the lineage, because if Brandon's taking the name Kent, and you would assume, it's not just a name, because he physically resembles.
He does,
Kent, right? The dark features and whatnot. You would assume like that should be his title, but no, it's someone that looks completely different, and that takes that on. And then his sister is the Blue Lantern, right? Yeah. So, and just what that means with hope and the whole Superman mythos on top of that, of course, a descendant of the House of El would eventually wear a blue ring. Just like each of these. Yeah, each of these almost represents a different aspect of Superman. And then when you have him return in the King Arthur style way, he's the culmination of all of them.
I love how much of this just went over Pete's head. And I think, to the story's credit, it sounds like Pete still enjoyed this. I mean, jump in if I'm wrong here, but you still mostly enjoyed it for what you read it as.
Ending was a bit weird. It did a decent enough job making me like the characters that were here. I never even once thought King Arthur, and I was baffled when you said something about King Arthur at the start of this. I was like, wait, what are you talking about?
And that's kind of what I'm getting at, though, is that even though you don't have any of that knowledge and you're not projecting.
Yeah, but I'm not this is very clear, though. I am nowhere near as enthusiastic about this as you guys are.
No. I know, but you still liked it well enough, right? You don't dislike it. That's safe to say, I think.
Sure.
And I think that's on a fundamental level, this story still succeeds at being good enough that you can enjoy this.
Can we talk about how there's a 2-page layout in the middle that makes the Nightwing logo?
Oh, that is gorgeous, actually. I did love
it. Wait. Did I miss that?
Yeah, because at first I thought it was making the S above it. And then I looked, because the top panel is very much in the S diamond. I don't know what you want to call it, the shield. But then underneath it has very distinctly the Nightwing logo. It's split into two parts rather than just being one underneath thing. It's in the fight with all the Doomsdays.
It's all I could think when I saw it. I was like, "There's an Nightwing logo here."
Yeah, it's very cool, and I think it's very notable that the background of a lot of those panels in the Nightwing logo is blue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was a
Which
smart choice.
also, that's why I always feel like Grayson's also a part of that Superman family, just because, I don't know if this is canon anymore, but the whole reason he takes the name Nightwing is based off of his relationship with Superman.
Yeah,
That when he strikes out on his, yeah, and when he strikes out onto his own, he wants a name that's, similar to where he was, but also pays homage to like Superman, who helped get him there as well.
As much as Batman is his mentor, Superman is his hero, and
right,
and he wants something that honors both of them.
Right.
And I do think it was a very intentional choice to have that layout in this book. And
yeah.
No,
good
I did
there.
like it as well.
And I just also want to just, he doesn't get to do much, but Con-El, which also, come on, it's so close to Con-El, Connor's Kryptonian name.
It is when
and he gets it, right? The Barbarian Superman.
No, there's a solid one.
Yeah, I know, I was breezing past it. But so, just the name, his name is Con-El. He wields a gigantic sword, yet he's not a typical barbarian. He just, like...
It's interesting, because from my knowledge, Khan is essentially a translation of king.
Right.
It is the root of that. So
right.
It's really interesting. And this being the House of El will liken it to Arthur and the House of Wessex, things like that, where in theory, the one who has the title of Superman is that king.
Right.
Maybe it's closer to him being the king of kings or the emperor in reality, and Khan is still able to be a king as well, a sub-king, which again, makes a lot of sense.
At the end of the day, though, I feel like it's more like Johnson going, it sounds like Con-El, and also that brings the image of a warrior,
I mean, he even has the curved sword, the back out of it. Great design.
It's like,
Godlewski does a great job with the designs here on every character.
And
assuming he did.
This is probably the most I've liked Godlewski's art, and I just feel because he has so much space to work here with the different layouts, like the ones you just mentioned with the Nightwing logo and the Superman shield, but like just the way the fights flow, and then Johnson even gets out of his way and just there's full pages here with no dialogue or anything.
And I think it's very rare that you just have a page that is structured as traditional panels kind of played through. They're always at angles, they're always fractured in different ways. It's constantly on edge and overlapping and with different images. There are very, very few pages, maybe a handful in the entire 40-something page issue that are traditional. Here is your layout of panels across the page. I think that's a really interesting choice, and it's completely breaking the traditional format for this issue.
For sure. I mean, it's really when Imperious shows up is where it starts to get more traditional.
It gets weird as well at the same time, because it gets traditional first, and then it goes off the deep end for all the battle stuff.
Right. So, but no, I really enjoyed this, and I remember looking at the cover and seeing all the different characters and being like, oh, this might be cool. I had no idea it was going to go into these, this mythological aspect.
I was looking forward to this only this last week, though, based off of the last couple of issues of Worlds of War, and realizing that this was Johnson writing this. Before that, I was like, oh, I'll read it, but I didn't have any attachment to it. It was only once I realized who was doing it that I was excited by it. The fact that I lived up is pretty good.
And just so well, I was saying, just so Pete's clear now, in Arthurian legend, right? There's a witch or sorceress named Mordred, who's very, very close to Circe, that tricks Arthur.
You're thinking of Morgana, yeah. Mordred's the son, which is very a lot more incestuous than Pyrrhus is.
Yeah. But I was doing with Cliff's notes. I just mixed up my M names. But so Morgana tricks Arthur into producing a son who leads to his downfall and leads to him going to Avalon, because it makes that maybe Arthur's not as pure as the knights think him to be.
In most tellings, Morgana is also his half sister.
Yeah. So here, once we get that, Circe, a illegitimate son, Superman's off, wherever.
And it all kind of clicks together, yeah.
it all just like it's like when you get to the end of the Rubik's Cube and you just get that final one and you're like, oh,
I see
okay.
it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
I thoroughly love this issue.
yeah, there was no sword and a stone, so I didn't get any King Arthur references. Uh,
That's just a small piece of it.
that's the whole thing.
No.
He's overlooking the entire woman. You know, the Lady of the Lake.
Yeah, and yeah.
And which one's really Excalibur?
Well, and these are his knights of the round. You know, like
Yeah.
So good. I want more of these characters, and I know
the fortress on the moon, which they gave it an actual name, didn't they?
Sanctuary.
yeah,
That's
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary. Sorry, that's kind of his Camelot.
Yeah. So I want more of this, and I know Johnson has said pieces of this are seeding places he wants to go.
That excites me.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's timey-wimey. I don't know, here or there. But after this issue, and I was already sold with Worlds of War, right? This one just, tied it up and gift wrapped it. That I'm very, very excited for his time on Superman. I've even gone so far of, oh man, I wish he wasn't doing action and Superman. We get different voices. I'm cool to have two Johnson Superman books a month.
I stand by that. I wish it was different people. I would rather him just be on one and a double shipping. But at least it's someone I like. But I do wish it was someone different on the other book.
What are you rating?
What
are you rating?
I'm giving this a 9.5.
What? Connor?
It's a 9 from me.
There you go.
7 out of 10 for me, but okay.
It's higher than I thought.
I'll be honest, the enthusiasm for this is a little surprising to me. Like I liked it well enough, but I came out of this book going, oh, that was definitely a big step down from those other two issues.
I got a Blue Lantern. I got Connell. I got the Brandon Kent. Right? I got the Tamaranian. Like, there's all stuff that I love already.
And that's before you throw in the Arthurian stuff.
Yeah. So, I'm good to go.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I definitely know which way I hope the run leans towards more, but
I mean, I would love if the run went full King Arthur.
Yeah, full space fantasy King Arthur. Oh.
I would be disappointed if that were the case. I'll say that. Future State Superman versus Imperious Lex issue 2. Mark Russell writing with Steve Pugh on the art. This is issue 2 of 3, the one Future State book that's lingered into the following month. And part of me's not even really sure why, because I feel like this issue kind of wraps up everything very neatly, to be honest.
Yes and no.
It has an entire story in this issue for certain
that
I thought could have ended it. Because throughout most of the issue, I was on guard for the fact that, this isn't going to wrap up neatly this issue. There's another one still to go. And then it kind of does tell its entire story. I mean, I'm assuming Russell has more to say, and that's why there's a third issue.
Yeah, I'm assuming we're going to see Petty Luthor in issue 3.
Oh yeah,
because this is almost each issue shows the descent into madness for Lex Luthor, almost. Like I'm going to be getting Hearts of Darkness vibes.
I mean, the ending is just Lex being mad, and the only reason why there's more story, and it says to be continued, is like, okay, well, I guess it's going to be about him trying to get revenge, but this could have equally just ended with him being mad in his bathtub, and it would have felt like an ending.
Right. You guys still haven't read the Flintstone stuff, right?
No.
This is very on brand for Russell, that those kind of could stand alone. Yeah. The stuff in Flintstones could stand alone as single issues as you go, but it builds a narrative the more that you read. Like, there's an undercurrent. So this feels very much on brand for what I would expect out of him. I do agree it could have just been 2, but I'm not going to be mad at the third issue because I very much like his take on Lex. Because this is the Lex Luthor I really like, the one that is super petty about Superman. And like, he could be a good person, but he's like, no, I like money too much.
Yeah, to just sum up what the issue is obviously Lois is there to be sort of an ambassador and sort of check out the planet because he's joining the United Planets. And Lex is welcoming. He's got a little parade for her, a big welcome sign, and he's talking about how now now they have to like help him out with all the debts of the planet because now that they have to share all that responsibility. And almost just after he's made this little speech, Lois sees like sort of assistants in their sort of mech suits discover there's actually these minerals on the planet that could be used as energy sources that will it's basically like striking oil in Earth present day, where it's going to make whoever owns it rich. And Lois is like, well, Lex, technically we also own any minerals that come here now too, because you're part of the United Planets.
I love the moment that it actually does this, because Lex is like, yes, I'm the richest man, my crystals, and she's like,
yeah,
don't you mean our crystals?
Our crystals?
And, and he asks, like, what do I get in return? And she actually says, well, in return, you get, help with, clean energy, you get help with school, healthcare.
Maintaining a good society. Yeah. Basically.
You get a lot in return, actually, your entire civilization. And he's like, you know what, Lois, I'm not a good fit for this United Planets. I think we should call the whole thing off. Like, this was the best scene of the issue, because it made me laugh. Like, it was a really funny scene.
Again, Mark Russell understands the character of Lex Luthor, and like he's at the end of the day, he is a sniveling like a-hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here that goes because I just love that there's all this propaganda to welcome the United Planets, and then as soon as he finds out that these crystals are going to make him even richer than he's ever imagined, that propaganda flips on a dime to now tell all the people why they don't need the United Planets. It's just like it's hilarious.
This is a Lex Luthor who steals cakes. This is not your this is more classic cake stealing Lex Luthor than it is modern run for president Lex Luthor. Even though he's technically also ruler, but
I mean, am I alone in thinking this issue is way better than the first one?
I think it's better.
I would say way better.
The first one was fine, whereas this one I was like, oh, I really like this one.
I would. Yeah. That's a bit better. I wouldn't say it's way better. I'd say it's a bit. I think the first one suffered some of the dialogue as they were all sitting around to the like United Planets table debating. That was a bit wordy. Took a bit long to get through.
This one, the more time it spends with Lex, the more I like this issue.
Yeah.
Because Lex immediately shoots the people that's with Lois in their mech suits so that they can steal all the crystals.
And then imprisons her in with the little Herbie the robot looking guy.
Yeah, but what he doesn't know is Superman's got 3 good minutes, always. As Lois knows well.
Yeah, it was a sex joke there. That was a bit...
Russell. Yeah. Which is another Mark Russell. I was like, he slipped one in there, huh?
Yeah.
Apparently, so the Superman for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, hey, where do you think John came from? And then all them kids.
Lois ends up actually getting one of those mech suits that her allies had to save Superman when he's getting his ass beat. I did also like the idea that Lex makes all of the alien race fight Superman while he still has some of his strength, but once he's fought long enough that the Red Sun's done enough work, he's like, okay, now I'll take him. Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
Very Lex, isn't it?
Also, Lex killing the newscaster for questioning why the news story changed from to the opposite of what it was an hour ago.
And when they go onto the air, and the remaining anchor's like, he's on assignment.
I like because it comes up just saying later, and there's still the empty chair, and it's her going, he's currently pursuing other opportunities in the eternal void.
Also, her hair's like singed, like on one side where the blast happened. Yeah, that stuff's quite funny. The joke ending though is that Lex is like, okay, so how many of these crystals have been sold? And the robot's like 0, and he's like, what? Why? And it turns out that Superman, having a sample of it, basically synthesized it in the fortress and is just giving it out to free for everyone, making them completely worthless. And
Economics 101.
Yes. So he's pissed. So if it wasn't for the final line of Lex saying I'm thinking, as if he's planning something, this would totally just be the end of the story, and that'd be it.
Honestly, even if you take out the to be continued, and you have a X99, which is the little robot, being like, so what should we do next, benefactor? And Lex is going, I'm thinking, X99, I'm thinking. That would still work as an ending to the 2-part story if you didn't have that to be continued.
Hey, mate, I think it's cleaner without him, I'm thinking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking. Does feel like there's something planned?
I know, but Lex always has something planned, so I would buy it.
I would complain if this was the end and that bubble was still there saying I'm thinking. I'd say it was bad writing.
Interesting. No, I actually do find that interesting. I wouldn't have done.
I'm sorry. There's no Arthurian like analogies in this one. Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
Look,
No, and just instead we have social commentary, which is a whole other.
yeah,
You know,
nothing
you
else
can go
this
just
week
as
is
deep.
going to come close to the Arthurian
No.
parallels. And me and Matt clearly really loved that, and nothing else is going to get that level of discussion.
Well, it's not going to be.
This is still really good.
It ain't going to be a clean sweep this week. I'll tell you that much. All right, no clean sweep. That's a fun issue though. It's funny. It's got a sense of humor. It's very akin to his issues of Wonder Twins that I read. I think. His Lex is pretty entertaining to be around. I almost essentially just want him to write a Lex book that's kind of like almost like a Billionaires It's Always Sunny, of Lex
Yeah.
trying
I
to
would read the hell out of that.
like Lex trying to like do these schemes.
Well, and it's almost like Fraction's version of Lex 2 with Jimmy. You know, there's a lot of that in the Jimmy Olsen book. They don't feel too far off. So yeah, I'd be there for that too. I guess I should finally give Always Sunny a watch. Huh? You guys bring it up a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, Flintstones is not on DC Universe, which is a little disappointing.
Dang.
I guess
I will say it's worth the purchase.
Yeah, next time it's
if
on
you
sale on
can.
Comixology, I'll grab it.
Yeah, but it's if you enjoyed this, you'll thoroughly enjoy.
All right,
I like this issue a lot more than the first one.
Matt, what are you rating it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor?
I'm giving it a 7.5.
I will agree with the 7.5. Future State, Batman Superman issue 2, Jean Lun Yang writing with Ben Oliver on art. The False Face Society, Professor Pig, all that stuff we're continuing with. So, yeah, there was a general enjoyment of the last issue, if not overly enthusiastic. Okay, Connor was more negative. He was making a face at me.
It was okay. I think I gave it like a 5 or 6.
Sure. All right. And this, yeah, I can tell. I think if you like the last issue, you'll probably be into this one well enough. I think mainly I like the demented Professor Pig, performing stuff on Superman, or the insane, like, weird mutation that he made out of Superman's DNA, which is just like a flesh with eyeballs. Like rats have got like little eyes with heat vision in them, and
yeah, that was
like
out there for sure.
I wasn't really
Like-
feeling all the pigeons with eyes that have X-ray vision.
Yeah,
I was kind of into that. Or Pig
certainly
having,
a grab bag of ideas.
yeah,
I would say, yeah, you just throwing stuff out. And
Professor-
be like, sure, why not?
Professor Pig having like big pig hands, like, or pig heads as hands, was just kind of a surreal
Yeah.
visual.
It was such a weird thing because like he went all in on Pig because usually Pig is a guy in a mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And went all in on these mutations, and then Mr. Toad, who is usually a genetic mutant to be a toad, is just got one of those face changer masks on that we saw in one of the other comics.
Yeah, Batman's obviously worried about Superman. Probably my favorite little moment in the book is when they first see each other, run into each other in the hall, and Superman says something kind of meaningful. He says he's relieved to see me. He tries not to show it, but I can tell. He almost never calls me Soups, because he's just called him Soups. And then you get Batman's narration, and it's just, he's not dead. Good. And that made me laugh.
Yeah. I do love the dueling. That's one of my favorite things in a Batman Superman book, are the dueling narration boxes.
Yeah.
Like that. They add to some fun moments like that.
I'm still not feeling their voices though. I think like the narration boxes are fine. It's the dialogue that still feels wrong.
Yeah.
There's a bit where Batman just goes, "Oh hell," when he sees that they've synthesized kryptonite. I'm like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a Batman line.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I fell asleep trying to read this 3 times this week.
Mm-hmm.
Just being in bed. Not that it was bad or anything, but I was just like,
Wasn't captivating you enough.
No, and I one night in particular, I had laid down where my wife could see the screen, and she goes, "All right, put the iPad down. You've been on that page for 5 minutes, and you haven't moved anything. Yeah, you go to bed." And so, and yeah, I mean, again, it's fine. I appreciate what Yang had done here with Pig, because he is. I always feel like if there's one character that you can go completely insane to the walls with, is Professor Pig. Yeah, and it's not going to feel out of character at all. So I feel like Yang was having a lot of fun with him.
Honestly,
here.
the biggest complaint I have with the issue is more just when it tries to shoehorn in that they have this disagreement about why Superman should stay out of Gotham and not help with the magistrate. Is that
I didn't like that.
they might use your DNA again, so you need to stay away. It felt a little bit forced and just
But
to try and explain
you
things.
trust too much. We need to be harder.
I think the problem with it is that it's trying to explain something that's always a problem that we just ignore anyway, which is, there's several things if Superman just came to help, he would solve very quickly. And likewise for other heroes that could show up and help various other heroes.
What's frustrating for me is that it actually touches on the idea of why Superman doesn't. Is that, no, I trust you to deal with it. Because he actually says, you're going to handle it. I trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always trusting in Batman to handle his problems, and that if he needs help, he'll ask for it. But at the same time, has this weird misunderstanding of Batman being like, no, get out of Gotham, get out of my city. It's like, it's this weird dichotomy of like completely getting one of them and completely getting the other one wrong, that I almost don't understand how someone has that viewpoint on both of them at the same time.
Yeah, because I feel like we're past the point where like Batman's that protective over Gotham, because you have that many people operating there. Like, I'm sure, I feel like there's a way that they could have done it where he goes, I don't need you getting mixed up with the magistrate knowing, because he's already revealed himself, right?
Yeah.
And like, he doesn't need the magistrate weaponizing that even more than they already could. You know what I mean? But like, just the reason that Yang gives, it does feel weak.
Yeah. I think, I'm not sure I'm that big a fan of Yang ultimately, because everything I've tried from him, I've kind of bounced off of eventually. I think I gave New Superman a handful of issues when it was kind of exciting and fresh. Didn't like his Terrifics at all. And then these two issues have kind of been like, Like, they're not the worst things ever, don't get me wrong.
No. I'm excited to see what he does with the Batman Superman coming out of, Infinite Frontier.
I wish I was. Because I want to I always want to like his stuff, because the concepts sound like, I should be interested in this. Whenever I read it, I kind of bounce off it.
I mean, I generally had fun with this two-parter, even though it's definitely not without its faults. But it's kind of that thing where I'm not like praising it in a way where I think it's like excellent like comic book. I'm like, I'm having fun with kind of some of the fun, goofy ideas with the monster mutations and kind of the wackier elements of it, as opposed to it being more of a serious book.
I will give credit to this issue for having more artists than I realized. Because I'm just looking at the credits page now, and Ben Oliver, who did the first issue, is working with Steven Segovia on pencils and inks, but you have Scott McDaniel on the breakdowns as well. It feels a lot more consistent than there's 3 different people working on it. So I will give you credit for that. I would never have guessed there are 3 different people working on this issue. Whereas, especially after the first issue, which I believe was just Ben Oliver, and I don't feel like there's a noticeable difference in the art between the 2 issues. It still feels pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. What are you giving it, Matt?
I'm gonna give this one a 6.5.
I
think I'm just gonna give this a 5. I think it's fine.
I'll probably agree with Matt. Give it a 6.5. Well, that's not enough time, though. But I had fun with the pig stuff and whatever. Yeah. It's the sort of thing, though, like, will I keep reading the ongoing Office at this level? I mean, probably not. I don't see...
But as a 2-issue mini, you're like, fine. But if it was this all the time...
So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Alright. Future State Aquaman issue 2, Brandon Thomas writing, Daniel Sempere on the art. Matt, are you the only person who read this?
Connor read it, right?
No, I did read it.
God damn you.
I did.
Okay.
You're all right.
He did,
You're
yes.
Okay. I heard him say no. And it was no, you're right. And
I just felt like Matt jumped the gun there and just heard what he expected to hear, rather than what I actually said.
I don't know why
Yes,
Matt
no,
gets so
exactly.
upset. Like I before we started the show, I said to Matt, "Hey, did you read this thing?" He's like, "I'm not telling you. I'm playing this game."
Because you guys have led me to believe that you've read a certain book, and then when we get there, I'm the only one that read it.
I hadn't led you to believe anything. I was just asking if you'd read a book. It was just a
But
question.
you've done it. You've done it in the past, so I have to have my guards up.
Why? What happens? There's nothing. It's not like you
It's
get to the
unpreparedness, Pete. Like when you're the one, generally speaking, you know, you're hosting, you're telling the book through. We're kind of prepared. Just we'll react off you, whatever you go on, and then you spring on us, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden we have to actually think about what we're saying. It's the awareness of
me and
shit,
Connor
we have to
have-
think.
keeping you on your toes.
And so me and Connor have two different philosophies when it comes to it. When I'm by myself, I want to get through it as quick as possible, right? Connor decides he's going to give a breakdown almost page for page sometimes, you know?
Depends on the book. There's some
right.
books where I'm like,
So-
no, this needs it. Whereas other books, I'm like,
Yeah. So this one I feel more of the latter because I almost feel like this is kind of a tone poem.
It's
In
weird
this
because
one?
this is the other half very much of
Uh-huh.
the two issues, where if the first issue was 90% Jackson, this
Mhm.
this issue is 90% Andy,
Right.
and it really does feel that way.
But yeah, so she gets separated. She's in, they're in the confluence of oceans, and she's missing her leg because her leg got, taken off by that beast. And she ends up with these fish who are like glimmer fish, but they're almost like T1000s at the same time. Like they're
That
like
is a
this.
very good description. I was trying to think what's the best
Right?
way of describing these. Where T1000 is a good one.
So they're living, but they're kind of metallic, and they have this group thought. And so, she washed up on this beach. She's missing her leg, and these glimmerfish are talking to her, and she's asking for help, and so she sends out her like telepathic, aqua power, and one of them jumps up out of the water and attaches to her leg, and it gives her a leg. And so the running thing through this is that the glimmerfish are like, you need to return him. He's a piece of the whole.
The entire
she's like-
issue is that is our brother. We need our brother back. Let him go.
And she's like, she maintains like, well, no, he chose this. I didn't make him do anything. When I asked for help, he's the only one of you that chose to help.
Or she'll say, this was an accident. I'll give him back once I've saved my brother, being Jackson.
Right. And so, and it goes through her and Jackson's, adventures through the confluence, and, she's learning
mate.
Matt, you might go in. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's all these lessons that Jackson taught her to survive, basically, without a power.
Yeah.
Like, I think the first one is like survival, which is like, just
Mhm.
hunting for food, basically.
Right.
You've got them de-escalating conflicts, and look, basically, he's teaching her how to be a hero rather than just survive at the end of it.
Right.
There is an absolutely gorgeous panel. It's where the lesson is patience,
Mhm.
and it's them like meditating on top of these rocks in the sea,
Yep.
and it's this silhouette, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I
He's,
cannot give it the justice in the words.
yeah, and he's sitting. You can tell,
Like
legs
cross-legged,
crossed.
classic meditation pose.
Yeah, and she's almost doing yoga. Her
On
hands
one
are
leg,
outstretched.
arms up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's in this like like almost like watercolor-esque panel,
Mhm.
Where it's all the like soft shading and and smudge kind of fades between them.
Mhm.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
But yeah, and so, as she goes through these 5 years that they've been, separated.
The idea is
know-
the confluence will take her back there, but the confluence doesn't have any concept of time or space in the same way that mortals do. So
Right.
what it thinks it's doing, it knows it's taking her back to Jackson, but it doesn't realize that it's taking a quote unquote long time for her, because for the confluence, this is nothing.
Right. And so we get some real cool like concepts of her on this like riding a flying shark through a jungle, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
that is
pretty cool. And then she's with some what look like toad pirates, like
Yeah.
whatever, wrestling, looks like a saber-tooth tiger of some kind or a cave bear, you know, and then also sending a message through the confluence with her, you know, aqua kinesis. No, that's aqua kinesis. What would it be? Aquapathic type of powers, you know?
Aquapathic, yeah. Oh, that's a good word for it. I don't know if that's the
Uh,
official word for it, but I'm going
No,
to
but
go.
it should be. But and then then it catches up to where we were with Jackson, and you
Her
know
coming in for the rescue.
yeah, and you know the whole Aquaman returns, and you know she starts to lay a beating on these guys, and Jackson stops her. Even everything that he's been through at the hands of these people,
Kind of like, no,
you
we have
know,
to be better.
right?
Yeah,
And then that
and
was
that's the final lesson, because there's
final
like
lesson.
4 or 5 throughout the issue.
Mm-hmm.
This final one is restraint.
Yep. And then you know they end up you know reconnecting, and you know there's tears and they're happy, and they end up. It looks like you know.
And this is where my big problem with the issue comes in. That I'm going to talk about is when she's come to rescue Jackson, she's brought in this whole army of sea creatures with her aqua telepathy, as we're now calling it. And as they go up to the surface, and they're like, "No, we're together," and Jackson's like, "It's okay. You got you can let them go now. We'll find our way home. Let them go." And there's this gorgeous close up on both their faces, his face and then her eyes specifically.
Yeah.
And then all the fish, you just get the silhouettes from under the water of them leaving. And what I hate is there is no answer, not even any acknowledgement of what she does with the glimmerfish on her leg.
Yeah, that's also the YouTube.
Like, that's like the entire issue is building up to this. Does she let it go or not?
Yeah.
Does she stick? Because constantly she's like, "I promise I'll let him go once I have my brother back." Like repeatedly she says that, and and the glimmerfish are like, "No, you won't. All you what do they call them? Conductors? Is it?"
Yeah.
You're all the same. Conductors being people who have aquakinesis. You're all the same. You say things, but you have your own ideologies. Your own reasons. And at the end, it's not even like it's left ambiguous. It's because I could live with this ambiguity of whether or not she let it go. There's not even any acknowledgement. There's nothing. There's no question as it doesn't even address it. It's just all the fish go. We know that she let them go, but we don't know about the leg because it pointedly never does a shot under the water again. We never see her body. We never see if this foot is still there or not, and that is really frustrating.
Yeah. Well, certainly at the end, it kind of ends with them never like. We know eventually they have to get home because she's part of the Justice League, right? But like it kind of ends ambiguously with them floating in what looks like a chunk. Like, are they home? Are they just in another piece of the ocean?
They're definitely still in the confluence because the final bit is Jackson. Yeah, remember what I said before. Hopping around dimensions. Some free lost time, which implies that maybe this isn't the 6 years for them or whatever it is isn't the same on Earth. Some freaky glowing leg thing. So he definitely acknowledged that she had a weird leg. Whether or not she still has it at this moment is different. But again, he doesn't acknowledge that it's gone. And he goes, that's how you make the Justice League, which is that was a whole thing in the first issue.
Right.
And then it just, the final panel is all the ocean in all the odd colors like the confluence was, and just this caption box with, Aquaman and Aquaman escape again. And that's it. Like there is no acknowledgement either way. It's really frustrating.
Yep. But it's beautiful to look at because the Sempere art is
some of Sempere's best work.
Yeah.
I think I said in the first issue that it was it was probably some of my least favorite of his work, where it was fine, it had moments, but it was okay. Whereas in this, there are so many moments that are just like, goddamn. Well, that meditation on that very same page, there's a panel of her swimming in the sunset, absolutely gorgeous. That stuff at the end with the close-ups on their pages, their faces, her eyes, and just the awareness of what she's doing and keeping control, and she breaks down into tears afterwards. Absolutely gorgeous.
Well, and too, I tried to look up the colorist too, and it just left my brain as soon as I looked. So I started looking at all the pages you were talking
it's
about.
Adriana Lucas.
That's what I thought.
We've seen a lot of stuff in the past.
Yeah, so it's all these kind of muted colors, right? Like they're not none quite take over every page. It's a lot of blues
Even when
and
it's using a lot
purples.
of, even when it is using bright colors, there's a lot of
Right.
reds and stuff and oranges. It's
Right.
still fairly faded and muted.
And it just, yeah, everything works together on the art side of this to make it, yeah. But no, yeah. So it just, again, this is a book that just kind of like, I read it early on, and I forgot most of it just because it is almost like a series just going.
It's
So
a frustrating book because I was going to give it a 6, I think, just because I liked it well enough, but I did like the art enough to give it a 6, which is above average. And then that ending with the lack of addressing the leg and the glimmerfish at all, like again, not ambiguity, just lack of addressing it whatsoever, knocks it right down to a 4 for me.
oh no, I'm a little bit more, but again, that's why rating things are stupid, because I'm at a 6.5 with this one, and most of that's the art, because they did enjoy it. Yeah. So cool.
Okay. Well, every month on patreon.com/mailfuzztv, our patrons can make myself or Connor read a book at one of the higher tiers. It just so happens that one of them in this case is a new release book, which is Future State, A Legion of Superheroes, Issue 2, Brian Michael Bendis and Riley Rosmo.
I need the drink first.
This is obviously Connor is reading this one, so
I posted the first page on Twitter just as a heads up of what I do for Patreon. If people pay me to read a book, this is the sort of shite they can make me read. Because this first page, oh boy, turns out it's just a recap, and I was very grateful. In as much as it's so much text, I was grateful for what it was, because I remember being very confused by the first issue and what was actually going on. Because I weirdly think this recap does a better job of telling me what actually happened in the first issue than the first issue did. Because I remember being very confused as to what the conflict was all about in the first issue and why they were at war and why they were kind of splintered in the way they were. And this recap page tells me it was basically Element Lad led his people in an attack across all the different planets of the United Planets. They attacked all of them at once. And the idea is that they transmute all the elements, so they couldn't come back from it. And that was what put them at odds with each other. And I did not get that in the first issue at all. I was very confused. Whereas this here just has Charles Tane, which I think is the bouncing guy.
Bouncing boy.
There you go. Bouncing boy. I think it's him narrating this. And then it jumps right back into just the big fight that left it off, which was basically the mostly reformed Legion as we left it last time versus Element Lad. And he's taking a lot of them out. There's a whole thing where it's hopping through him using different elements on them, and I don't know what all of them are. I'll be honest. This is periodic table knowledge that I have forgotten over the years. Na, which is sodium.
Yes.
Yep. So he uses sodium on one of them, which sodium's like salt, right?
No, well, salt is sodium chloride, NaCl.
Right.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's putting them in like a box of ice almost with the Na, and then Fe is iron. I want to say
that's iron.
That is iron.
Yes.
I only remember that one because it's so weird. Because most of the elements it's like, okay, hydrogen's H. This is just the first couple of letters, and then you get to iron and it's Fe.
Yeah,
the gold is AU.
Yeah, so you have him using iron on one of them and just shatters one. He uses H2O on one, which I'm assuming is someone who has electricity powers because they kind of start like frying themselves. And then HG, forgetting what HG is. Anyone want to jump in?
Mercury.
Okay, so that's that. Mercury's really heavy, right? That's
well, it's liquid at room temperature, which is the only metal to do that. So
it's really dense, from what I know of Mercury. Yeah. So that's why he's using that to push them down, and then he uses H, which is of course hydrogen, to blast a bunch of them off. Yeah. Or actually, I think he uses that to blast himself off to escape. which I'll grant it. This is an inventive page, because you have most of those are going down the page. So you have like Na, then Fe, then H2O, then Hg going down the page in these like sub panels across, and then you have the rest of the pages. And then it points. All of these are pointing downwards with arrows, and then H pointing upwards as he blasts off. It's a relatively inventive layout. And then what I will actually credit is the layout of the following page. Is he's running away, but it kind of goes around, it snakes around the page, but it's constantly in like a bunch of, it probably takes place over about 8 different panels, give or take, but the background never changes. It's just, this is the static layout of where the page is, but the characters move through it. Even though the background should really be moving, because it's like he's on a ship and then he's falling off a ship is one of the points. But the way it kind of does flow through is actually really solid sequential storytelling. And by splitting it up into various panels, and by that I just mean they put a border around it. It doesn't actually, because the background is exactly the same. They just put a border around it to separate this moment rather than the other. And it does give it this really solid flow. So I will give it credit there as he escapes. But then the rest of the issue, basically Imra goes into their mind and discovers that it wasn't Element Lad and his people at all that really did this. I mean, technically it was, but it wasn't their free will. It was her people, the Titanians, that used their psychic abilities to influence them all to do it without them realizing. And they sent her to the Legion in the first place because she was too much of a free spirit and couldn't be trusted in the hive mind. So they got to get some distance from her. And they used her as basically the inside man to kind of infiltrate everything and get all the information. And then they kind of took over Element Lad and all the others of his entire race. They used, through their powers, used them to kind of engineer this war, but no one knew. So they were still, then they became this like galactic civil war basically. But it was all them. I'm not sure for what purpose. I don't know why. It's very unclear as to why. And then they're going to recruit Rock on Daxam. I'm not sure. Again, another problem I have with this book, it never once does the pop-up panels of telling me who they are, what their superhero name is. So Matt, help me out here. Who's Rock?
I have to be as ROKK.
KK. Yeah, that's the one.
I'm trying to remember because there's Rock and Block. Let me look. Because I'm not sure.
I just thought you might know, being aware of Legion stuff.
Oh no, that's Cosmic Boy. That's Rock Kryn.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is Cosmic Boy, who has a history with Imra, but hates her now for whatever reason. And they're like trying to recruit him back into being in the Legion and help out with this because it wasn't Element Lad after all. There's more going on. We need your help. And yeah, then they have through Imra have a psychic battle with the Titanians. Lots of inventive layouts. It's very psychedelic. I don't hate these layouts. I really like the lettering again. It uses this red lettering for Imra and this blue lettering for the rest of the Titanian hive mind. And it's not in boxes. There's no narration box. It's like really free form lettering. Really well done, actually. I'll give it credit for that. And there's one point where the Titanians, go like, "You have no right," is the line, but it's bigger and it's bolder and it jumps off the page at you. Really solid lettering work of just like even without this, functional form of boxes or bubbles, it gives you the context of what this is and how it and the tone. So that is really effective. But basically, they kind of shut them down, and then as she comes back out of the psychic plane into the real world, John Kent is there now again, and I feel like this is where I missed something, and maybe this is where it picks up off the end of the actual run. I might be wrong here, but it feels like it is, because she's like, "Oh, John, you're back," and he's just like, "Did it work?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm here, but not there. So thank you." And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on anymore. I feel like I missed a massive chunk of story. But John's there in some weird helmet with a visor. I don't know if this is recognizable to either of you who read Legion at all. Or maybe it's exclusive to this book. I don't actually know.
So say that again.
John has like this weird look where, as well as the his suit going up to his neck, it goes up over his head and has like a visor that comes down, has these gold like earpieces that are almost Flash-esque.
That's new to me.
Okay, right. Because like I said, this feels so disconnected from everything else in the book, because John Kent's suddenly here and he hasn't been here in these 2 issues at all.
Right.
And she's just like, "Oh, you're back," and he's like, "Did it work?" And I'm like, did I really miss something here? Like, I feel like I missed something in the main run. Like, I don't know. And then they're just like, "Yeah, all right, well, job's a good one. Long live the Legion." And that's it. I'm like, well, what? What happened? I really don't know. I will say I will give this a higher rating than the last one. I still don't like most of the art. I don't like the actual visuals of the art. I don't like the faces. I don't like the bodies. All of that Rosmo stuff that I tends to dislike. But I do think in this issue, at least, Rosmo has some really good layouts. I mentioned that one earlier. I think he has another good one where Satin Girl has a really oblong head helmet in this. I think it is a helmet specifically. I don't know if she usually has it this oblong. I don't recognize it. But
no.
It's like there's like a few panels which are like set within her helmet piece that are oblong, and it has this nice look to it that goes over the page because of this layout. So I'll give it credit for that. I still think the story's a mess. I have no idea what's going on. I think it's terrible. It doesn't tell me who any of the characters are, especially as a future state book, let alone as a continuation of Legion, which, from my knowledge, typically does tell you who the characters are in a lot of issues. But it still does that horrible thing where the opening of the issue is all in alien text and it doesn't translate it for you, so you have no idea what it's saying. Again, from context, I think it is mostly just the future state text of this is spinning out of death metal, that whole text bubble which at the start of most of them. But then there's a second bubble and of all this alien speech. I have no idea what it says, and that's just frustrating. I don't know why it does that. I don't know why it feels the need. Yeah. So I'd give it higher than the last issue, but I still think it's not a good issue. So I'll give it a 4.
Okay. There you go. That'll take me on to my Patreon book that I'm doing this week, which is American Vampire. I think it's issue 16. But unfortunately, the cover in the trade does not actually tell me at a glance what issue it is.
One of those trades.
Yes, I mean the cover's there. It doesn't say the number.
I mean, at least
Right.
it does the issue split.
Yeah. This is the important part. So if you remember, the end of the last issue was Henry and the other soldiers who were still alive, along with Skinner, were kidnapped by the Japanese and taken to some sort of camp of some kind. They were on their way to this weird, they heard murmurs of this evil building where they were doing some shady stuff. And we get this prison / dungeon / like lab where they're doing experiments with these vampires. One of the American troops from this the vassals is thrown into this pit, almost gladiatorial pit in the middle of this weird prison, and one of those liquor vampires that were interested in the last couple of issues is released in there, and it turns him. It's a really well done scene because like what the captain of the platoon is like begging, end his life, don't let him turn into one of those things. And obviously these Japanese soldiers are like, nah, we don't. This is the whole point. This is why we put them in there. We're doing tests and shit. A lot of great art here. Like there's a moment where there's no dialogue almost, but they just put these big spotlights down into the pit as this soldier's turned into one of these vampires, which is this happening almost instantly, which was previously established. And it's super well done. Meanwhile, Pearl has arrived on the island. The commanding officer's speaking to all these nurses and is confused why there's only 11 when there was supposed to be 12. cut to Pearl running through the jungle, and she is accosted by some vampires, and gets ready to fight. But the big thing of this issue, though, is that Henry, it turns out, has figured out that Skinner Sweet is Skinner Sweet. And they've been in these cells for like a week or whatever it's been, and he's essentially deduced that he's a vampire because he's used to sleeping next to a vampire and can tell based on the heart rate that this is not a living person. And it basically just makes the leap that this is probably Skinner, because A, it's a very similar heartbeat, and B, it's the one vampire that makes sense that might have been seeking him out. And essentially makes this pact that, look, we need to get out of here. These vampires, these liquor style vampires, they can hurt you just like they can hurt us. You need our help as much as we need yours. So how about we form a truce to get out of here? And as part of this truce, like, Skinner's lying there still injured from being attacked from before, so Henry essentially ends the story of this issue by offering his arm for blood. It's like, no, you won't take too much, you'll take enough to get well and heal, and we can get out of here. And a lot of the narration at the start of the issue and then get into this part is Henry kind of talking about that, he was always taught about being a musician, like, and part of like being the best type of like artist and musician you could be was always playing like it could be your last, and like you're sort of courting the devil is the phrase that he uses. And this is kind of a literal almost version of that, where he's having to trust someone who is devilish. They have to work together to survive this hell that they're in. Gorgeous panel here as well of Skinner in the shadows coming towards him with the big demonic tongue and the big sharp teeth as Henry's arms like sort of reaching through the bars. Really atmospheric, really brutal, as is the actual baiting itself with the blood dripping down Henry's arms. And of course the big cliffhanger is that Skinner, now with his strength back, is able to break down the cells, and it's them encountering the commanding Japanese officer and like the head scientists who are talking about what they're doing. The alarms go off and they encounter them in the hallway, and it's your big cliffhanger. So it really feels like shit's hitting the fan, and this uneasy alliance is the big focal point of the issue, which makes a lot of sense. I think it's good for Henry as a character that he did figure this out, and it wasn't just that Skinner got to like, get the jump on him at some point. Because Henry does have the danger of being kind of the chump of this book, because he's the normal guy who's in love with Pearl, and everyone else is more advanced than him. They're either monsters with superpowers, or the vassals of this tight-knit group, and they're hunting vampires, and they all have these tragic backstories, which is why they're hunting vampires. Because it does a good job as well of telling you the backstory. The soldier who's sent down at the pit who dies, it tells you, he's Asian American, he was an immigrant, and this horrible story about how they were all named by the Americans when they arrived, and there was a joke about how he was given the last name Lant because his first initial began with an S. It was like this really racist joke that the Americans who were bringing him into the country were making. And he could have changed his name, but he never did. He kept it because he's like, no, I'm going to make it mine. I'm going to be proud of it, regardless of where it came from. So he tried to give you a little bit to make you care about this guy who just died. So really effective in that sense. But it's the uneasy alliance that is the focal point of the issue, and just building that Pearl's getting closer, but she's not quite there yet. And I imagine she might show up just in the nick of time, just before Skinner turns on him and does whatever he's going to do. Is either when she's going to get there and witness it for the dark ending, or get there just in time to stop it for the somewhat happier ending. And I don't remember what the ending is. I've read this before. It's been a while though, so I don't remember. I don't remember if Henry is around for longer than this. I don't remember where this goes. So I'm excited to rediscover that.
You'll find out soon.
I'll find out soon. But unsurprisingly, the art's been very consistent because it has been mostly been Albuquerque, and the playing with the shells. There's a lot of stuff in this within cells and dungeons. The design of this prison is a big sort of cylindrical building with a pit in the middle of it, but it's like a more tall than wide, if that makes sense. So it has kind of this weird everyone looking down at the pit kind of vibe to it. So there's even just the architecture of this building feels kind of strange and somewhat I don't want to say gothic, more maybe medieval, I guess. I suppose more than anything, but
That makes sense from Albuquerque.
yeah, but
Mhm.
you know, it's plain. There's a lot of yellow lights in these dark blue dungeony kind of looking locales.
Who's coloring it? Do you know?
I don't know if they've got the credit page still here in the trade.
They might not.
They don't.
Is
Yeah.
really fair,
I don't think they do. Unless it's maybe in the last page. Let me go to the last page. No, they don't. Sorry, I don't have any other credits.
You said it was issue 16. You think?
I
Maybe.
think so. Yeah.
I'm just trying to see on Comixology, see if I can find out. I'm very intrigued. Dave McCaig, who is a wonderful colorist. That would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that Garda's book, and in some ways might be my favorite of the arc so far, just because it feels like it's really starting to all come together and come to this head of the tensions building. The issues have all had and contributed something towards this, and I think this arc in particular, I think, does read very well if you binge it, because it is just this kind of action movie of them going on this mission and getting ambushed and getting kidnapped, and it all kind of flows onto the one another. But this issue on its own is very satisfying because it's got this big development of this uneasy alliance. So, now solid like 8.5, I'd say, for this one. So, there you go. But that'll take us out of the part of the show. We pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. So we will start with Matt and his best panel / moment.
It's the appearance of King Arthur Superman in House of L. So good.
Connor.
I mean, it's hard to fault that choice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go from the Red Hood story. I'm gonna go with it's a moment from Rose, and it's after White Rabbit's like, you better not have any you better hope he doesn't have any repressed issues, and it's just her going, yeah, F, with the it's that close up panel of her doing that with the lettering, with the very unique take on censoring that it has, with the black spiky bubble around the symbols inside the normal word bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that panel.
That's actually my exact choice. So, and I'm not changing it because I'll be honest, I don't have another one to pick this week, so nothing else really stuck out to me. So I'm just going to stick with it, and we'll have to double up. Because I assumed you were going to pick something from House of L.
Well, that is going to take other slots. Just for a moment, I laughed so hard at that it deserves it.
So for cover, I'm going to shout out the main cover of Dark Detective because again, it's that neon-y, very pretty coloring. As much as I wasn't as hot in the book itself, the variant for House of L, as we pointed out last week, is jaw-droppingly gorgeous. So that's my cover.
I think those are the only 2 covers that really stand out at all this week. Frankly, I think it's a pretty.
It's the opposite of last week.
Even with a week with 2, Yannick Paquette covers, which I typically like, I think they're kind of both just fine. Those 2 covers, the only ones that really stand out to me.
I'm gonna go with Superman versus Imperious Lex because I like how much of a propaganda poster it looks like for Luthor.
The standard Paquette cover. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's got an evil-looking Superman with a Lois not cackling, but an evil smile behind it.
This is the one where Superman's going to crush them under his foot, and Lex is saving the terrified civilian.
Yeah, like it's exactly what goes on in Lex's head.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Also, the House of L ones are great, but I want to be different. So.
Yeah, I mean, I am going with the House of L variant ultimately, but
yeah. All right.
Limited choice this week.
All right, best start of the week, Connor.
Oh, that is tough because. No, do you know what? I'll probably give it to Dark Detective. I think both of them are really high quality, but yeah, I think there's a shout for House of L, and there's a shout for Superman vs. Imperious Lex as well. But I think the 2 artists being very good on Dark Detective kind of win it out for me. And
Aquaman. I want to shout out Sempere for Aquaman because that was the thing that stuck out the most for me. But I'm gonna go with Godlewski for House of L, just because it handles everything, except the dynamic layouts and just each character has their own take. It looks fantastic. Action's well handled. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think go Dark Detective. Because I like Dart in both stories, and they're very distinct and different. But the whole book as a package was very well done, so it has to be that. So top 5 books, Matt, go.
Number 1 is House of L. Number 2 is Superman versus Imperious Lex. Number 3 is Dark Detective. Number 4 is Batman Superman. Number 5 is Aquaman.
Connor?
Surprising absolutely no one, I'm sure. House of L is number 1. After that, yeah, Dark Detective, Imperious Lex. What else have I got? I mean, there's a pretty significant drop after that point. By necessity, it would be Batman, Superman, then Aquaman. But like both of those are so far removed from my top 3, it feels like I'm doing those top 3 a disservice by including them.
Number 1 for me is Dark Detective. Number 2, it's probably House of L.
We'll take it. 2's a good slot.
Yep.
Superman versus Imperious Lex at number 3. Batman Superman at number 4. And that was all I read, new books wise. I mean, if I can put American Vampire in there, that'd be number 1. But but I can't. So
I mean, I'm grateful to say, Legion of Superheroes would not make my top 5.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but if you'd read one less book and you still had to read that for Patreon, it would have naturally been your number 5.
Sure, but it's a Patreon book, so it doesn't count. Even if it's a new book, we don't count.
No. It came out this week. It still counts. Like,
no, it doesn't.
It does. It absolutely does. Don't even start. So what is coming next week, you might ask? It's exciting because we're going into March, which means we're actually getting to the first of...
There's actually not actually that much next week.
It's not that much.
I love it.
But it doesn't matter because it's still the start of a new dawn, a new era. So we got Batman 106 coming out, so we're back to regular books. We get Infinite Frontier issue 0, so that should be exciting. Seeing what the
That makes this officially the start of the post-Rebirth era.
Yes.
Yep.
The Swamp Thing issue 1, so Ram v Swamp Thing book begins. Crime Syndicate number 1, so that's the miniseries. Suicide Squad issue 1, which we're all going to read, Matt.
You're funny.
No, we're all going to... Why are you laughing, Connor? We're going to read it. We promised that we would read it.
I mean, I promise to read it as long as I have time.
I promise I'll read it, Matt, if you read it.
Oh man, no crossies count, man. I feel like you're setting me up.
Would we do that, Matt?
Yes, absolutely.
Also,
I have trust issues.
Also out next week, Man Bat issue 2. And there you go. As much as you mentioned, Sensational Wonder Woman, which is a reprint of Digital First. So, there you go.
I just want everyone to know, I actually booked next Saturday off work, mainly because, one, I had a holiday to use up and I had to use it this month, so I was like, quickly use it. And 2, I felt like it was important I was available for the issue of Infinite Frontier.
Yes.
My thoughts are vital on that for the ongoing future of this show.
Vital's a strong word, but
unlike Doomsday Clock, numerous issues. I gotcha.
Screw you, Matt. I didn't have holiday days to waste on then.
That's the 12 most important issues we ever talked about.
My job at that point only let me book like 3 months in advance, whereas this time I can book a week in advance.
Oh boy.
Exciting. Well, let me take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So, thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are all patrons at $20 or more, which is what makes them Patreon producers. But you can support us, of course, for $1 or more per month over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses. And the main thing, of course, being at the $5 tier, you get access to the show a day early. You get it on Saturdays whenever it's ready and out the oven. You also get early access to Previously in the Multiverse by a full month, which is back. It's not necessarily every week, that show, which is me and Connor working through classic comics, because sometimes, like this week, where he's working till very late, like three or 4 days out of the week, it's just not going to happen. But It is back. There's been 3 episodes. The first one is just going public this weekend. So
we haven't gone longer than 2 weeks without an episode. It's been, we only missed a week at a time.
Yet.
Yeah. Look, my work schedule, I don't know very far in advance. I literally find out the Thursday the week before for my next week. So it is every week we're playing everything by ear right now. There's kind of nothing I can do about that.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you all go and sign up to our Patreon and give us enough money that I can quit that job and dedicate to this full time. That would also solve that problem.
I need more listeners for that first.
Yeah. Look, if every person who listened to this went and gave like $3, that would be quite a lot.
Yeah, that'd about cover my starting salary. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, go to Patreon. Go to Patreon supporters. You also like and subscribe. All these things are important on YouTube. They help the algorithm and all that jazz, and that's the most important thing you can do on YouTube. So please do that. Comment, let us know what you thought of the books. Get us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast. And since we are getting into March, maybe before next week actually, the voting form for the top 50 DC characters of all time, in which you will submit. You can submit a full top 50 if you wish to make a full top 50. But the minimum will be 20. You'll have to submit a top 20 DC characters. And if you want to obviously do it, you don't have to do it. You're not obligated to submit one. But if you want to take part, you can. And this is a vote for the top 50 DC characters of all time. There will be a results special around episode 250. And this is to celebrate hitting episode 250. It won't actually be on episode 250 because then episode 250 would be the most ridiculously long episode of anything we've ever done ever. So it'll be a separate special. So look forward to that. But yes, the voting is coming soon, and the voting will be going out through March. So that's coming. But otherwise, that is us. That has been episode 242 of Comics from the Multiverse. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Make Pete read Arthurian legend.